Welcome to tonight's full council meeting of Derbyshire Dales District Council. Thank you everyone attending and members of the public who are with us tonight as well. I'd just like to introduce the council team that we have with us tonight. So we have several members of the committee team, Democratic Services. Over in the corner there's Sarah Brixon and Freya Hunt, John Ramsey, and then on the top table coming this way we have Caroline Leatherday, who is Director of Governance and Corporate Services, Paul Wilson, who is our Chief Executive, Kerry France, who is our Monitoring Officer, and then skipping two councillors, Steve Capes, who is Director of Economy and Place, and Matt Bowers, who is working with us as Planning Consultant on local plan. Down on the table in front, we have Nikki Wells, who is and Karen Hendrickson, how could I forget, who is our Head of Finance. So that's our officer team tonight. So we have apologies for absence from several councillors, Councillor Robert Archer, Dermot Murphy, David Chapman, Nigel Edwards Walker and Nick Wilton. I think, yes, Martin is with us tonight. Thank you. Moving swiftly then to public participation. So David Redshaw is going to speak on behalf of the Ashbourne Airfield, regarding Ashbourne Airfield development. And you're from, I think, Ashbourne Football Club, is that correct? Would you like to come and join us on the speaker table here, please? So just make yourself comfortable. And you'll see the microphone in front of you. If you just pull that towards you slightly, and I'm hoping it's the left-hand button, which if you press that, that will go red and stay down. And you have 3 minutes then to speak, if that's okay. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is David Redshaw. I'm a director of Ashbourne Football Club. And I want to speak on behalf of the football club, but also on the behalf of the wider sporting community of Ashbourne on the subject of the SPD, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. Ashbourne is in dire need of sports facilities and has been for many years. So as well as houses being built on recent developments, we want to recognise that Ashbourne isn't just a place to reside, it's about the quality of life there. So it's very interesting to see the number of representations that the community has made on the lack of sports provision during the consultation on the SPD. Other public consultations on this project, which we and other sporting bodies were involved in, put forward, I believe, well-argued representations for greater investment in sports pitches. So it's very disappointing to see this summarised by officers in the report as, quotes, sports provision / open space, a wish to see greater sports provision in Ashbourne, specifically football pitches, but more generally children's play areas and or open spaces for children to play. Now we believe this completely downplays what has been said during the public consultations. Indeed, the exclusion of football in the SPD of March 2026 is reinforced on page 4 of that document, which says that a purpose-built football stadium is financially unviable. Now this statement flies in the face of evidence from the Football Association, the Football Foundation, Sport England and other bodies who've published guidance and business plans showing the complete opposite. 3G pitches, which is what we are proposing, 3G pitches generate revenue to cover their cost and are generally oversubscribed. So not only do they cover their cost, there actually is a surplus to go into whatever the operating body needs to do. So our question here is, whoever reached that conclusion, and on what basis, when we can produce evidence to show that the opposite is the case?
Can I ask you to draw your statement to a conclusion, please?
I beg your pardon?
Your 3 minutes is up. If you could just neatly
Is it really?
summarise.
Okay. Well, anyway, if I may summarise then, we believe that the SPD is incomplete and really doesn't give any reflection of the need for sporting facilities in Ashbourne, and we ask that it is reviewed and amended to include provision for senior football and other sports on the site. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry I overran.
No, not at all. Thank you. Okay. So our next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the previous meeting, which is pages 5 to 12 on your documents. So could I see a proposer, please, for those? Councillor Dobbs, and a seconder. Councillor Hughes, thank you. Could I see all those in favour of accepting those minutes, please? Okay. And any against? And any abstentions? Thank you, those are clearly carried. Can I ask members now, item 4, to declare any interests that they think they may have? Councillor Franks.
Item 13, I have a non-pecuniary interest in Derbyshire Dales CVS as a board member.
Anyone else? No. Thank you. Leaders' announcements. Councillor Flitter, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Shan't keep you too long, but I've been to quite a few meetings this last fortnight, and I thought I'd better just report on some of those. Firstly, the SLB, the Derbyshire Strategic Leadership Board. There's not a lot to say about that. Things aren't quite happening at the moment, but we are changing yet again to create a new structure in preparation for the next phase of LGR. Things in the change now is that we are taking reports from MCA representation, MCA reps on committees, and also to monitor MCA's forward plan, which will give us a little more insight to what is happening. My message from the SLB, or to the SLB, is that we need a stronger force within a recognised influence and as a consultee with MCA. But success will only happen if the constituent members are willing to explain or challenge MCA decisions, which I don't see much of in the past. Then I went to the East Midlands Council. Now, they've only got two main boards. One is immigration and the other one is the development and skills. But this last week we had rather an interesting session, because we've got a new regional migration board chairman in Councillor John Doddy, and I don't know if anybody's ever met him, but he's quite a character. He's Irish, he speaks very quickly, he's never done this before, but he spoke for quite a long time, and I didn't understand a word he said. And we were joined on that day by Alex Norris MP, who is the Minister for Border Security and Asylum at the Home Office. And he was telling us about the problems of reinstatement, you know, the 28, 56-day move on pilot, dispersal methods, and how the East Midlands are helping with that. Types of accommodation, facts and figures, all relating to numbers and costs, what were happening. The one disappointment I had in that discussion was I thought there were some very unfair challenges, because the guy was trying to put a point across and I don't think he was allowed to in the right way, because the opposition in the room at that night were making the usual cracks about small boats and the lack of confidence in the public. But then we went on to talk to Tony McArdle, who is the MHCLG Senior Sector Advisor on proposals, developments and next steps for LGR. And that was quite interesting and caused some discussion. But my message again from the EMC is it's clear to me that we need wider issues being discussed in local government, and so we've got an input to determine national issues, and again we need to adapt to, for future success. Then I accompanied Paul down to the DCN conference in Rudymead on Thursday and Friday of last week, and we set up a new branding. We accepted it's no longer the DCN, District Council Network, it is the Local Council Network, so it's the LCN. And I like the strap line, it's leading locally, influencing nationally, and I think that's very good. Many sessions, we had a session on a new vision for the future of work in local economies, and we're accompanied by Hilary Cottam on that. She is a social entrepreneur. Quite interesting, some of the things that she was saying. We also had the local secretary, former Secretary of State for Communities in local government, Professor John Denham. He highlighted the need for rethinking local public services. And then we had breakout sessions on human experience of homelessness. And then we got the proper ones that we came out with cyber security and what LGR means to the private sector. We also, in the afternoons, we had more sessions on how to tackle the barriers of building 1.5 million homes and leading people through the change of local government. The political side of that, after the political groups and CEO meetings, we had Zoe Franklin, Liberal Democrat MP, discussing a view on quite a few issues from the opposition benches. And then we went on to discuss the LGR, on the political leadership of unitary authorities, and all finished up on the Friday with a ministerial speech from Baroness Taylor. I came away with a message that after networking with colleagues, there's a lot of division politically, but not about the change in government, but about the process of how it's been handled and the creation of stress that have been endured by staff and members of all local authorities. And by gum, we're not unique in striving to solve staff financial issues whilst continuing to provide services that our residents really deserve. Yesterday there was an announcement on LGR, and as you will probably know, those who keep their eye on the ball, Essex and Hampshire have been divided up into 5 unitary authorities. Suffolk and Norfolk have gone for 3 unitary authorities, and the interesting point is that they've all got 300,000 residents, not the 500, and they've not gone above the 500. And the message from LCN in a statement made this morning was to ensure LGR is successful is to create smaller unitary authorities that are genuinely local and will have a population of lower than 500,000. And then this morning, again, we've had a message from the Mayor of Emker, who's put her view forward on the Derbyshire proposals and made the points that we get LGR right and not favoured for our residents. We also acknowledge the work that local councils have done in working together and in the best interests of the council as a whole. Constituent councils should remain the same to enable smooth transition, and a planned time frame should not be delayed in any way, shape or form, as we need to get on with the job. And it needs to be based on a sensible geography, supporting housing and development across the region. So now I just want to get back to the Derbyshire Dales, because I think this is very important. We often talk about where we're going with Derbyshire Dales. We don't reflect on the work that we're actually doing. And if you've seen and read the organisational update, you'll see that £184,000 government grants have gone to 17 local projects this year. 373 planning applications have been sought after. 600 food inspections. 71 properties have been adapted through disability grants. 81 sites have been nurtured for biodiversity. 184 residents needed housing support. 500 fly tipping have been cleaned up in the area. £127,000 in government grants has gone to 23 local businesses. We've emptied litter bins 140,000 times. We've created 573 community walks, and we've created other health-related events and activities, and they've been attended by 14,730 people, visited 11 schools, answered 21,266 telephone calls, and answered 3,922 emails. And the last one, 58 local events have been licensed to happen on our property. And why have I told you all this? This is the day-to-day business of the council. This is what our staff are here to do, as well as see to our corporate plan. So on here, I want to thank our staff, wherever they work within this council, for the work they've done. Now, I know that not long ago we had a JCG meeting, and I know Councillor Bond will be interested in this, because we had a staff survey, satisfaction survey, on that day, and we had a record time that we sat discussing this issue and showing real concern about our staff. But it's just, if you look at what our staff think about us, 83% are highly satisfied with their job. 88% say that we're one of the best employers to work for. 82% speak highly of the Derbyshire Dales district councils outside of their work. And 83% understand their role and how it delivers and makes high quality services. And to finally finish, Chair, on Tuesday night we were at a social event, a charter dinner with the Rotary Club, and I was with Andrew Pugh from Matlock Bath, and he couldn't express high enough the thanks from this council. We had high praise from him and how the parking issue that we've sorted out in Matlock Bath has paid off for local businesses. This is what our staff are doing, and I commend the staff and wish them every success in whatever they do in the future. But while they're here and working for the Derbyshire Council, Derbyshire Dales District Council, I think that praise should go to them, and they understand how we do appreciate the work that we're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flitter. Now, we don't have the Civic Chair with us tonight, so there's no, he's given his apologies, so there's no report there, which means we move straight to item 7, which is to receive the non-exempt minutes of committees which report to the full council. So that's the Planning Committee, 13th of January, Community and Environment, 15th of January, the Local Plan Committee of the 21st of January, Governance and Resources of the 22nd of January, Planning of the 10th of Feb, Special Planning Committee of the 24th of Feb, Scrutiny of the 25th of Feb, and Governance and Resources again of the 26th of February. So could I have a proposer, please, to accept all of those en bloc? Okay, Councillor Burton, thank you. And a second, I saw a sea of hands there. Councillor Slack, yes, thank you. Could I have all those in favour, please? I think that's unanimous. Oh, apologies. Any against? And abstentions? Thank you, those are carried. On to item 8, which is questions. So first of all, we have Councillor Hobson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, could I just refer back to what Councillor Fitter has said about thanking our staff? I've already had a private word with Ash. I'd like to thank the staff that are involved in collecting the pink litter bags that a lot of people are collecting litter at this time. And I had some to collect that needed collecting this morning, and I sent the photographs through and it was collected straight away. So thank you to Ash and all the team, and also the work they continue to do with that. So thank you very much. My question is, Derbyshire Dales District Council has approved a new order banning barbecues and open fires from all land in the district with public access, which is publicised in the spring edition of Dales Matters, which goes to all households. Can the leader confirm how this will be enforced throughout the district, and in particular on Stanton Moor, where there are year-round issues with campfires and barbecues? Thank you.
Councillor Flitter.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sue. As outlined in the report, which was presented to the Community and Environment Committee back in September, and during which all PSPO briefings with members prior to that committee, it was made clear to members that neither the District Council or the relevant organisations have the resources to carry out active enforcement or the Moorlands B&B barbecue and fires PSPO. The council have worked with landowners to install signage at locations which they feel are hotspot areas, along with working together with High Peak and Staffordshire Moorlands Council to understand what they have learnt since they introduced a similar PSPO last year. In the meanwhile, the council has committed £6,000 for the next 2 years to the Peak District National Park Authority towards the employment of an engagement ranger, which will be in post during peak session and observe and report on the fires where present and recorded will help us understand the problems. The neighbourhood's manager has also been in discussion with Inspector Troop from the Derbyshire Police for the police to support 1 or 2 planned engagements days with partners, which he has agreed to.
Thank you, Councillor Flitter.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. We've all had an email this afternoon from Vicky Hadfield, so thank you in connection with this. I'm sure you'll agree that barbecues and open fires are a terrible blight in the Derbyshire Dales, with the potential of serious environmental impact on wildlife, farmland and other properties. And although I welcome these measures, it's no good just having a couple of days of engagement or enforcement. So does the leader agree with me that this is a start and that there must be a consistent and regular approach to enforcement, particularly on Stanton Moor, where, as I've said before, there are issues every weekend throughout the year? Thank you.
Not a lot I can say on that, Chair. We're doing what we can. It was made very clear that it would be a problem on enforcement before this action was taken. And these activities are not something new. Stanton Moor was my playground when I was a child, and we camped up there, but we did it in a responsible way. Unfortunately, there are 1 or 2 in society that don't take that view, but that must not interfere with the pleasure of going on Stanton Moor and any other rural area in Derbyshire Dales because of these incidents. But we will react to anything that we find in future that we can learn from this experience. But as it from this day forward, there are no resources to do that, but that may change in the future.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. Thank you. We've got a question from Councillor Helen Froggatt.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Flitter, as the bins collections is something that every home in the Derbyshire Dales has a vested interest in, why did the recent waste survey close after so few responses? Would it not have been more prudent to keep the survey open longer?
Thank you for your question, Helen. The number of residents surveyed is stipulated in the waste and recycling contract. As part of the annual customer satisfaction survey obligation, that figure is 800 residents per annum. And this has been the case since the contract was agreed and implemented in 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Flitter.
Would you like to follow up at all? Okay, thank you. I have a Councillor Bates. You have a question, I think.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Flitter, has the Council had any response from Nestles at all, specifically regarding the lifting of the covenant on the land of Mayfield Road, Ashbourne? If so, can you share their response on the matter to the Council tonight? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Yes, on January the 5th, 2026, the Council wrote to the appointed land agents for Nestlé, seeking Nestlé's support in removing or varying the restrictive covenant on the land on Mayfield Road. Due to the lack of response, further contact was made on the 27th of January and also the 30th of January. Sorry, on the 27th of January. On the 30th of January, acknowledgement of our request was received directly from Nestlé, and that was on the 2nd of February. A substantive response of our request is still awaited.
Councillor Bates, would you like to follow up? Okay, thank you. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Flitter, can you please update us on this, on the search for the traveller sites is progressing, as at the last C&E meeting was cancelled and nothing came up before that meeting. We still have problems in Ashbourne with the travellers, and the residents and myself think it appears that nothing is being done. That's the first question. Would you like another one as well, together with that, Councillor Flitter?
Yeah.
The second question is, can you confirm that this situation is having a detrimental impact on the service delivery to the residents of Ashbourne, and particularly the south of the district, due to the travel times for the staff, particularly the road sweeper?
Right, on your first point, a report will be presented at the next meeting of the Community and Environment Committee on this issue. In the meantime, the housing team continue to monitor and record land that comes open market for sale or via auction. If any sites are identified which are considered to have potential, they will be progressed through established, approved processes and procedures. In regard to the alleged problems, no such instances have been reported to this council. If there are any concerns at all on this site of the occupation on Mayfield Road site, they should be reported appropriately to the council via the travellers@derbyshiredales.gov.uk email address, and they will be investigated. On the second point, whilst there's been a short-term reduction in the number of hours that the sweeper has operated in the south of the district, there have been no increase in complaints or requests for services in that area. Sorry, since the change. There have been 4 requests for service in the south of the district since the change, compared to 5 last year at the same time. The Community and Environment Committee meeting in January this year, where progress of the traveller site was discussed, the Director of Community and Environmental Services and members made aware of the potential impacts of the Green and Clean team not using Mayfield site. It is, as stated, a short-term issue that is currently being addressed and will be resolved.
Would you like to come back, Councillor Lees?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Flitter. Short-term situation. I mean, we've already gone on 4 months now, and nothing's happened yet. So I would encourage that we do move this on as quickly as we can. We have still got problems with the travellers. I've had issues with people going to the allotments. They're being nettled as they go into the allotments. They're being shouted at, fists shaken at them, and all sorts going to the allotments. I've also had people that's going down to the cemetery. Again, a lot of shouting, no fault of the traveller, but there's a lot of noise, radios, loud music, and I am surprised that these residents haven't actually wrote into the council and complained, but in future I will encourage them to ring in. On the second issue with the road sweeper, etc., I would just like to add to the staff of the Clean and Green team as well, which you referred to earlier on. They did an excellent job in cleaning the Ashbourne town centre up after the Shrovetide event, starting at as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, and the services that they provided were second to none. So I do thank them for that personally, and it was a very good one. Thank you for that, Chair and Councillor Flitter.
Can I just answer that, Chair, is that it's not been 4 months since they moved in on Mayfield Road. It was only in late January that they moved in. And from what I believed, that the nearest neighbour was over 200 yards away. But if there are complaints, please do ask people to complain in the right way, so that we do get to know if there are any complaints. As at this time, no complaint has ever been made to this authority.
Thank you, Councillor Flitter. These complaints haven't come from the nearest neighbour. They have come from users of the cemetery and or people visiting the cemetery, should I say, and allotment users. Thank you.
The next question we've received is from Councillor Murphy, who isn't here tonight, so I invite Councillor Lees to read that out, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have received and heard that there has been several noise complaints from residents concerning the DDC depot site in Ashbourne. Could we please have an update as to when the officers plan to bring the depot site to the Planning Committee for consideration for change of use? The second question is, it has been noted that there are other caravans on the depot site for individuals other than the family we have responsibility for. There are also a number of commercial type vehicles on the site that don't seem to be the property of DDDC. As the council become responsible for more individuals, if the council is not responsible for these extra people, what is the council doing to address this situation? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Flitter.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate that there are no complaints in relation to the occupants on Mayfield Road site, and if there are any concerns arising, then they should be reported as previously stated. The planning application for the temporary change of use will be submitted imminently and will follow the formal planning process. Timescales will be determined by the development management team with following full consultation of the proposals and in consideration with the consultation responses. On the second issue, just looking at the response, there we go. Yeah, this site contains a number of occupants, caravans and vehicles and was at the coach car park. It is not for the council to impose any limits on vehicles owned by residents of the site provided, and there have been no complaints on the road or routes around Mayfield Road that have been impeded in any way.
Councillor Lees.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Murphy hasn't given me any follow-up question, but one I've just picked up on there is, has anybody been to check on these, the travellers, of how many vehicles and caravans they have got down there on the site? Because there is more vehicles and caravans than the said family. I have seen that for myself, and as regard to the noise complaints, it just must appear that they've only just complained to the local councillors rather than sending in a formal complaint to the council. So thank you.
In answer to that, Chair, I'm sure that our officers are fully aware and do monitor the site regularly.
Thank you. Councillor G, you're on.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Apologies to Matt Bowers. I'm sure he's doing a great job, as he did at Amber Valley. In the last financial year, the council under your control have spent approximately 1.2 million on consultants. Does the leader of the council think this is a reasonable amount for this council to spend on consultants?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor G. It really is too simplistic to focus upon an expenditure figure that's completely out of context. The previously reported figure of £1.2 million represents the forecast outturn position of 25-26 financial year. This includes expenditure that has already been committed but now will be delivered in 26-27 and carried forward. The actual consultancy expenditure incurred within the last financial year was £470,000. with remaining forecasts relating to committed projects that have already been profiled into the new year. The overall level of consultancy reflects on the council's use of external expertise, whether it is not or is cost effective or feasible to maintain such a specialist capacity in-house on a permanent basis. This expenditure supports a range of priority areas, including statutory obligations, major projects such as Ashbourne Reborn, and the time-limited initiatives which specialist skills are required in many cases. The use of consultancy provides flexibility and ensures the council that can access appropriate expertise and defined periods without incurring ongoing staff costs. It should also be noted that approximately £186,000 is forecast for consultancy spend throughout for external grants and other third-party funding streams. It means that it does not fall on the council's core revenue budget. All consultation and all consultancy spend is subject to established procurement processes and financial controls to ensure value for money. All levels of spend should be viewed in the context that the council's overall budget on the scale and complexity of the service that it delivers. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor G.
Thank you for a thorough answer, and I just hope this puts this issue on the spot to make sure that it doesn't get out of control, because we don't want to be seen to be privatising the council. But on a slightly different point, and the fact that he's had a nice meeting with Andrew Pugh, and I think this brings up an interesting point about parking in Matlock Bath, because could I have a sort of a commitment from the leader of the council that confirm if he is committed to remove Matlock Bath and Middleton by Wirksworth for consideration for temporary or permanent traveller sites?
This is a separate matter.
Yeah, but I'd like to ask the leader if he has got a commitment to do that, because it's an important issue, because he's played big on Andrew Pugh and making him happy with parking, but is he going to make him happy by removing that site completely as a site for permanent or temporary travellers, which is what the residents want?
I must ask you to stop. I mean, we could all ask questions, of course, randomly when it occurs to us, but this is a point where there's an opportunity for a considered response in advance that's been researched. I'm sure in future that question can be addressed, and if you want a written response, then you can put that in at any time.
Yeah, I'd like to have a written response, but I'm sure the leader of the council is capable of giving his opinion on this issue.
I'm sure he is too. Okay, all right, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 9, Ashbourne Airfield Design Code. This is a long item on our agenda tonight, and I would like to invite our officer to introduce it. Matt, is that you? And Steve?
Chair, thank you. I'll start and I'll hand over to Matt shortly. But I would like to start, if I may, by thanking the team that has been involved in this over the last 2 years, both internal and external. I believe the supplementary planning document that is before you, and apologies for the length and complexity, but it does set the council, and indeed particularly our planning committee, in a much better position than we would be without it. It is, however, only one step on the way to securing good development on this site, and we will talk about next steps as we move on. The site is one that members will be familiar with, so I'll move on, if I may, just to reiterate some of the background to this. The Airfield site is the largest allocation in the current Derbyshire Dales local plan, and together Phase 1 and Phase 2 would accommodate not just more than 1,400 homes, but also 16 hectares of employment land as well. And for those reasons, both of which are important to the District Council priorities. Delivering appropriate development at this site is an important strategic priority for the Council. As members will know, development of the Phase 1A residential area has commenced, not completed. 297 dwellings have permission, but also planning permission has been approved for 2 industrial buildings as well. It isn't just housing. The supplementary planning document before you will provide transparency for developers and landowners about our, as a council, our aspirations for the development of the site. And importantly, adoption by the council will make it a material planning consideration that can be used by the planning committee and planning officers going forward. Just to recap how we got here, there has been substantial landowner and stakeholder engagement over the last 2 years. There's been discussions with landowners, workshops with stakeholders. There's a project board which is still in existence, which we chair, that includes the landowners and developers and the county council. We've done briefings for members as well. I'll say this again, an illustrative master plan was created, and last July the council resolved that be developed into the design code, which is before you tonight. That draft supplementary planning document design code went to the Community Environment Committee a couple of months ago on the 15th of January, and that committee resolved to send it out for formal consultation. There is a list of some of the organisations involved, particularly those that attended stakeholder workshops here. That also is repeated in your pack as well. So moving on to the public consultation, that ran from the 19th of January to the 23rd of February. It was promoted very, very strongly, not just via press releases, via social media, which, as we know, doesn't reach everyone. However, there were more than 105,000 Facebook views. Plus, we emailed directly more than 9,000 recipients, and people also, in the knowledge that not everyone was on email, we also had 56 paper letters sent out as well. So the issues raised on the consultation are set out in the consultation statement, which is appended, and they include, amongst others, a wish to see greater sports provision. They include issues to do with road access and traffic, issues to do with wildlife, biodiversity at Bradley Wood and elsewhere, and issues to do with housing, ensuring that it's not built without appropriate infrastructure. Sections 2.3 to 2.19 of the Officer Covering Report say more about those consultation issues and set out more about the responses. But the key issue for members to bear in mind is that amendments to the supplementary planning document have been made in response to those consultation comments, and we're very grateful to the public and the landowners and the other stakeholders who did submit them. They have been incorporated within the revised version that you've got in front of you. I wanted to mention the Equality Impact Assessment. Members have all been sent copies of it. That was conducted by the Corporate Policy Officer to assess if the SPD did impact on people with protected characteristics as defined in the Equality Act. It did identify that no negative effects were present, but there were a number of positive effects. And the key conclusion for members to be aware of, to take note of when making their decision tonight, is that the SPD properly supports provisions for children and young people, older people, disabled people and other groups protected under the Equality Act 2010. I'm going to hand over to Matt now to talk about planning stuff.
Thanks, Steve. Ashbourne Airfield is allocated site in the local plan. There are policies relating to that site in the local plan, and the local plan has primacy when any plan application comes in. A supplementary planning document provides more detail and information for applicants and decision makers. It does not and cannot create new policy. This particular SPD is a design code for the site, so the focus of the SPD is on design. Design codes are encouraged by national policy, and there is guidance set out from the government on how to create design codes, and that's been followed in the production of this particular code. A design code itself is a set of illustrated design requirements based on a design vision. This design code will help to achieve a well-designed place. Once adopted, the SPD will become a material consideration in the decision-making process, i.e. when an application is submitted and considered by the Council. The ability to adopt new supplementary planning documents is being removed at the end of June as part of the planning system reform. Therefore, this is the last chance for the Council to adopt this SPD. The new local plan is expected to be adopted in 2028, so there's a period of time before further detailed policy will be in place. At this point, the SPD will no longer be a material consideration, so officers are considering how the SPD can be incorporated into the new plan. There will be a new site-specific policy, and it will have site-specific requirements in it. There will be an updated infrastructure delivery plan, and there will be policies on the delivery of infrastructure. The SPD reflects adopted policy on infrastructure and sets out how it should be designed. The code itself is split into 4 geographic areas with a code for each. This will lead to the creation of 4 neighbourhoods with a different design emphasis. Development should follow the codes, and applications will be required to be accompanied by a compliance report that sets out how the code has been followed. It's recognised that in some cases there may be occasions where not every rule can be met, particularly as more detailed work takes place on working up planning applications and more knowledge of the site is understood. In those situations, applicants will be expected to justify any departure from the code. The SPD sets out key design principles on distinctiveness, local identity, creating a more sustainable place, and reflecting not only the site characteristics but the relationship and the local specifics around Ashbourne, particularly with regards to the edge of settlement where the town meets the country. Once adopted, the SPD can be used immediately as a material consideration. The Council expects a single outline planning application covering the whole site to come forward, and the promoters of the land have indicated that this is their preference too. It is vital that the site comes forward in a comprehensive manner, and applications themselves will secure the delivery of infrastructure. The Council will continue to work with the prospective applicants, the promoters of the site, to deliver the aspirations of the Council and to ensure that a scheme brings forward that follows this code. Thank you.
Do we have any questions to Matt and Steve, please? Councillor Burton.
I'm just a little confused. Within the context of the local government review, and in the light of how important this document is, how in principle will this actually hold? What I'm thinking in terms of if from next May we've got this new structure, are these principles going to hold within that structure?
Chair, if I'm...
Because you were talking about the council. Well, it's not going to be this council, is it?
Well, up until April 2028 at the earliest, it will be this council. So there is a slightly longer than 2-year period where this council will continue to be the local planning authority for the area. So this will be in place, depending on members' wishes, from tomorrow, and therefore you will have 2 years to use this as a planning tool.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Mr Redshaw who came to speak so eloquently about the lack of sports facilities. He said he found this very disappointing, and the comment was that the football plans could be viable. I wonder if you could, either of you or both of you, could comment on the submission he made this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson. And yes, I can see that page 4 of the SPD isn't worded as well as it could be. The paragraph 2.4 of the officer report, however, sets it out more clearly. That is what says that the master planning work concluded in 2025, that the provision of a new standalone football stadium or pitches on the site would undermine the site's overall viability and raise compatibility with land uses. So the issue isn't necessarily whether a stadium is viable or not on its own as a going concern, it's the impact it would have on the viability of the site as a whole.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Dobbs.
Thank you, Chair. I just want a little bit of reassurance here. Matt, you mentioned that we have to wait for the revised local plan policies to come through. Well, there will be site-specific policies about Ashbourne Airfield, but in the meantime, I assume that HC14, which governs how we provide such things as playing pitches, will be very much in force and very much applied to this site.
Yes, Councillor, it will be. The adopted local plan remains remains of primacy, and HC14 will still be the policy that be used if applications come forward before the new local plan.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr Redshaw, who obviously has identified a serious issue, and one that I'm absolutely amazed that a town the size of Ashbourne doesn't have a 4G pitch or similar. Can we as an organisation ensure that, you know, if it's not going to fit on that site, that it is actively pushed towards maybe some section 106 funding to ensure that one is implemented in the town, because it's very, very important. You're totally right, Mr Redshaw, that, I mean, upon Cavendish Fields, it's only a smaller one, but it is a good cash generator. And the one on Highfield School that came from section 106, that is a good cash generator. And also, more importantly, it gives excellent facilities for young people to do something rather than be on devices. So that's my first observation. So, well, can we have an assurance that we will actively, as an organisation, look at the possibilities there, please?
Chair, thank you, and thanks, Councillor Wayne. Yeah, as it says in paragraph 2.7, discussions are already actively going on between the community development team at the District Council to look for alternatives.
Let's hope so. That's good. Thank you. Can I just also raise one other thing, please? Thanks for making some of the amendments in relation to the sustainable urban drainage system. You may recall that I raised some issues about the coulda, woulda, shoulda at one of the meetings previously. You mentioned about the aspirations, Mr Capes. You said our aspirations, about our aspirations. Surely our aspiration as a council must be to ensure the design of the SUDs relevant regarding the volumes and location of there. It still says should. If you look on under, I don't know what page it is because it's all, not every page is given, but it says the system should be managed. The system should be managed to increase, let me get it right, the design of the SUDS network, including the volume and location of the attention ponds, should be considered for the whole site rather than on a phase-by-phase basis. We've fallen down on this before, particularly down the Chesterfield Road, where consideration hasn't been given to cumulative impact. So why is it still saying should? Surely that should be a must. If we want to be aspirational and impose ourselves on it, we should be doing that. Not, it's a must. Could I have a comment, please? Thank you.
Steve or Matt, what would you like to say about that?
If I start while Matt tries to find the relevant paragraphs in the design code, I mean, I think that there is more detailed information about SUDs under each of the neighbourhood area types, which may or may not say must or should. Well, Matt will advise us on that. But in terms of the overall site as a whole, if members wish to change that particular should to a must, now is your opportunity to do so.
Can I just come back fleetingly, please? My view is, members, that it's a word, but it's more definitive than a should. It gives opportunity for people to withdraw or not do as much. I personally would like the actual document to say must rather than should. And I'm happy to put forward an amendment, quite a simple amendment that is, isn't it, if people are in agreement. Thank you.
We'll come back to that. We've got some more questions, I think. Councillor Peacock.
Oh, no, my question was the first part of Councillor Wayne's question.
All right. Councillor Martin Burfoot.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, like other members, especially at the workshop we had yesterday on this subject, I'm very concerned about the fact that we've got approximately 1,000 houses with only one vehicle access at the south of the site. A lot of the developments are, well, I don't know how far it is north, but it's a fair distance north of the entrance. And so some, particularly children, will want to play somewhere, and Bradley Wood's next door, so there's a rough footpath, I'm told by Ashbourne members, that runs through the wood or down a very steep hill down towards Belper Road. But that's not adequate really for even pedestrian access into the town. I think we've got to discourage people from using the car, and if there's no alternative pedestrian access to the north of the site, everyone will go by car down to town. There's no encouragement to walk whatsoever, especially if, as I say, they live on the north side of the site. So I think something's got. I don't think on these opportunities and constraints plan, figure 14, as I pointed out yesterday, there are several suggested routes for pedestrians, and it just says, a bit like what Councillor Wayne's been talking about, improve pedestrian and cycle links. Well, who's going to do that? Access to Belper Road, who's going to do that? Because it's probably across private land, but particularly in the case of Bradley Wood, I think any approximate path or informal path down that hill through that wood surely can be improved. We've just done a scheme around Hurst Farm in Matlock, Lumsdale, and that's a similar topography, I would imagine, and that's been very successful so far. So I think a similar thing should be provided by somebody. I think it should be in this SPD because it is, I think, a vital part of this development. We've got to encourage cycling and walking, particularly walking, I think, to get people into town rather than just driving around the houses, basically, to get to the access point. They'll probably have to do twice as many miles as they need to, just to find a way out onto the very steep and congested Derby Road down to the old 45 Road junction. So there's going to be more and more congestion as these houses become occupied. So is there any way in which we can include something like that in this SPD? I know it's very late, but I mean it's something that's been spelt out before, I feel, and it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Matt, I'm aware that I think you were looking up the answer to a previous question as well. I don't want to stack them up too much, but...
Chair, shall I pick up the previous question, if that's okay first? So I think the text that Councillor Wayne highlighted appears in 3 locations, in 6.114, 6.2.13 and 6.313. I think it's possible that you can change the wording in that sentence that you highlighted from a should to a must, because it's talking about the delivery of a strategy across the whole site, and I think that reflects policy. So I support that. Would you like me to?
If you could deal with Councillor Burfoot's questions.
Yeah, you can kick off.
Okay. As Councillor has highlighted, that the parameter plans do show connections beyond the site. I think the challenge here is that, as I set out in the presentation, the SPD can't create policy, so it can't require a connection to be made if that policy doesn't already exist, which I don't believe it does. I think if it would give some reassurance to councillors as part of the work on a planning application, particularly on transport assessments, these matters will have to be looked at. So the focus will have to be for that transport assessment to minimise car journeys in particular. And one of the ways of doing that is increasing and encouraging more pedestrian and cycling activities. So as part of the work, as the plans are developed by the applicants, I would expect them to be looking at those connections beyond the site and seeing what can be done. So the SPD in itself can't require it, but what it is doing is highlighting to applicants where they might be able to explore opportunities to achieve that.
If I may just
Very
add
briefly.
one small point to that, Councillor Burfoot, which may help, is that the District Council has, with some hope and aspirations, submitted to MCA a long list by the County Council of potential infrastructure projects that require external funding to happen. We have included potential connectivity between Ashbourne Airfield and the A517, i.e. this particular route that you're mentioning, as one such thing. So we have made first efforts to try and seek external funding to deliver the northern access.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Steve, and thank you, Matt. But can I just come back very briefly and ask if Bradley Wood is, well, it's obviously, is it protected? Is it triple SI or anything like that? And is the informal path through it down to Belper Road, is it a definitive right-of-way, or is it just an informal right-of-way without any definitive standing or status, shall we say?
Yeah, Bradley Wood is protected, and as the precise nature of the right-of-way through Bradley Wood, I'd perhaps defer to local ward members who would know more than I do on that one.
Okay. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just going straight onto that one. I do believe it's the old part of the old Snipes Moor Lane as was that used to come down onto the A517, and agree totally with what Councillor Burfoot have said. And Mr Redshaw, I think we need to have something in black and white. There's too many of these we'll explore, we may have, we may not have. Yeah. We need, all this is going to create is a dormitory which is going to be no benefit whatsoever to Ashbourne and its residents at the moment. We need a particularly football space. Why we can't include a football pitch, stadium, whatever you want to call it, and a community building within this site, which would tick all the boxes. This is the ideal opportunity now that we can specify that that's what we want from the developer, surely, and get it put into this SPD, that further down the line it's going to come to planning. Everything on the consultation document that we've had, it's all kicked down the line when the planning application comes forward. Everything that's of importance comes back to planning. It'll come to planning. We'll have no jurisdiction to implement these things, or very little, and I think now's the ideal opportunity. We should be encouraging landowners, whoever it may be, wherever the situation is, that we incorporate a football pitch, because we've got lack of it. People from Ashbourne are playing now in different counties in Staffordshire.
Is there a question here?
The question is, can we not get this community building, football pitch, etc., and this link specified more, defined more, rather than just as a maybe or something to explore? Because I think we're on the road to nowhere with it otherwise. Thank you.
Chair, I won't repeat what Matt said about infrastructure. All I would say is that this design code, the parameter plans within it, do include a football pitch, shared use, do include a community centre, do include a school, do include open space, and do include employment. So I disagree that it's just a dormitory. It's set up as a settlement.
Okay, we've got a number of people wanting to ask
come back,
questions.
Chair?
Yes.
Could you confirm whether this that football pitch is a full-size pitch we looked at yesterday, or whether it was a three-quarter size?
Chair, from what I've been told, there is space for a full-size pitch in there.
All right. Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with the gentleman speaker. There needs to be sporting facilities, there needs to be cycle tracks, and everyone agrees, I think, with that. But this will cost us money, of course. So my question is the developer willing to put money into this project? It's a straight question. Is a developer willing to put money into this project?
I'm not sure we know this at this stage, but...
Well, I think, Chair, that would be, for a developer would have to put money into this project, A, to build it, and B, to make it acceptable in planning terms. It will cost a developer a significant sum of money to bring this site forward, as has been reflected in the viability assessments that have been done at a high level already. And the nature of a planning application, as Matt has said, is that it will be assessed on its merits. The county council, the district council, and others will have opportunities at that point to say what they believe is necessary to make it acceptable in planning terms, and some of those may be secured by planning conditions, some of those by planning obligations, Section 106 agreements. But that all depends on the nature of the planning application when it comes forward.
Right, thank you, Steve, for explaining.
Okay. Councillor Buckler.
Yeah, the first thing is around active transport. So I'm very supportive of the stuff around active transport and ensuring that there are links, that there are better links for active transport into Ashbourne, because you know, this is probably going to be here for some time. It's likely that the local plan is taken on by the reorganised. So this isn't a 2-year decision. This is likely to be a longer decision than that. And you know, in terms of addressing our climate change implications and the role around that, then we need to make sure that we're considering that, and don't just make it a place for people to drive into Ashbourne. And the other point was around nature and biodiversity. At the moment, it's all separated out very individually to make sure that there are compliance. People are complying with biodiversity things, open space things, SUDS things. They can all be integrated together more effectively. Particularly with the adopted local nature recovery strategy, and make sure that, you know, because this is the design guide, it would be good to have some consideration of how we can be delivering nature-based solutions to reduce the risk of flooding whilst providing biodiversity, which we talked about at Community and Environment, but again, you know, they're still very much separate things. You can deliver one, you can deliver two. You can actually deliver all of them together and make better places for people to live.
Is there a response to that?
Thank you, Councillor. I think we agree with that. I think the nature of a design code is that it is split up into those topic areas and those theme areas to give clear guidance on those individual matters. And as you say, there's no reason why some of those things can't all be achieved together.
Councillor Buckler.
Yeah, apologies. That was there. Whilst it didn't end as a question, that was a question. Is there a mechanism for ensuring that it's more explicit in the design code that whilst they have to be considered separately, preferences for them to be considered collectively to deliver better places for people to live?
Matt, that may be a form of wording, I'm guessing. Do you want to comment again?
I think if it's not explicitly obvious that that's the case, I think it'd be difficult at this stage to reword document or rephrase it. However, there is a recommendation on the report to get delegation for minor amendments, so we could look and see if there's a minor amendment somewhere that makes that clear, either if it's just a sentence. But I think I was looking at paragraph, section 3.3, where it brings some of those things together already. So, to my mind, that's where it currently sits.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. There is a risk that the aspirations and objectives of the SPD could be undermined if individual planning applications are submitted in the future, which may prove to be financially advantageous to the landowners. Could we have an assurance from Steve and his team that the council will continue to play a proactive role in ensuring that doesn't happen by, as the presentation made clear, looking to secure a master developer to take forward the site, perhaps even going to the extent of entering into some form of development agreement with the landowners?
Councillor O'Brien makes a good point, and the whole point of having this SPD, I suppose, is to give the district council as planning authority exactly that level of influence that it doesn't have at the moment. Planning applications, if they come in now, before today, we don't have the benefit of any of the guidance that's in this SPD in front of you. Should members adopt it, then the local planning authority has that tool to use at its disposal. But yes, in terms of the other point, there is a project board that continues to meet, which includes the district council. We chair it. It includes Derbyshire County Council as highways authority, and it includes the all three landowning parties as well, and we will continue to work with them, not just to seek to get the development progress, but also to seek to continue to engage with the landowners to get them working more closely together. I think this process, it has achieved that as well to date, and we're keen to see that continue.
Councillor G.
Yeah, on this issue about facilities on the site, I've seen it time and time, because Steve says that there's possibility of having schools and sports facilities. But in my lifetime, I've seen these type of developments that the promise is to put a school, put a new school, put new sports facilities, and it never happens. I can remember it on Sleepmore Lane in Summercoats. I can remember it even on a more recent one at Lily Street Farm. That's supposed to include a school. The county council never come forward with the funding. They put land aside. They've got it in Cryche, land aside for educational purposes, but they've never got any inclination whatsoever to develop it. But from this council, I can see that there is an aspiration to put a 4G football pitch. That's something that we could control, and we could actually put, one of the councillors tonight could put an amendment recommendation to make sure it does include a 4G football pitch, a full-size one, so it's there, and that's what Derbyshire Dales District Council have put into that plan, and I think that's what should be done.
So are you asking whether that can be put forward?
Yeah, I'm asking if that can actually be made as a distinct recommendation within the actual plans. Put aside the school, we haven't got any control over that, and it'll probably never happen anyway, but it should do. But I think, yeah, could we do that tonight?
So is that possible?
All I'd say, Chair, is that a playing pitch is already in there. May not be 4G, but that depends on what comes forward. But a playing pitch is already in there, as is a school, and for the volume of houses that's planned, a school is necessary. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a mechanism via planning obligations to secure the funding. If this secures the site, the funding will be secured, and then there is nothing to stop the county council or whichever authority in Northern Derbyshire might replace it as local education authority to then bring that forward.
All right. No more questions then. Thank you for all of those. Councillor Dobbs, I think you're interested in moving this, but you have an amended form of words for part of it as well, don't you?
I do, thank you, Chair. Bear with me, because I do have an amendment, and I'd like to add to my amendment Councillor Wayne's amendment, the 3 locations where we're going to go for must rather than should. If I just bear with me, could you turn to page 272, which is page 8 in the design code, and I'm going to propose what may seem to be a very nitpicking little amendment, but I hope on reflection you'll see what I'm getting at and will think it worthwhile. So I want page 8 in the design code, centre column, bullet point 2, to read as follows. You okay there? Sorry, page 272 in the agenda
Keep
pack.
up, please, everyone.
Page 8 in the sort of colourful bits, and it's the centre column and bullet point 2. It says, well, I want it to say, there is a requirement for a provision of 6.2 hectares of outdoor sports. Outdoor sports provision and play facilities will not be confined to the school site and will be delivered both across the site as a whole and via off-site provision to meet the full local plan requirement secured as in bullet 1 above. And I hope you can see what I'm getting at, because I think if you have heard some of the suggestions and read one of the emails which I think Albert Golding sent to everybody, there are plans to put a 3G pitch into Ashbourne, not on this site, but on the recreation ground. There are issues, not insurmountable ones you could argue, but there are plans. If I can return to more generally then, so I'm proposing to move recommendations 1 through 5 with the above minor changes. Is that acceptable? So that then becomes the motion. Do I need to wait for a seconder or shall I just keep going?
It would be helpful to have a seconder.
This is very true. Do I have a seconder?
That's
We
what
do.
I got.
They were quite. Absolutely. The point I want to take up is that it strikes me that everything to do with planning, you're always too late. To be perfectly honest, a lot of the features of what have been proposed were set in stone in 2017. When the group opposite agreed the local plan in 2017, they agreed for 1,100 houses on phase 2. If you do the homes per hectare calculation, it's already high. If you want something to be more than monotonous rows of houses, you can't put a sports pitch of any magnitude on there, and you certainly can't put 2 on there. It's that simple. So within those constraints, we have to move forward. And it's just as well we've got to this point without any developer coming forward with their ideas, because this is our protection against making it not what we want, whilst it has to be, as Matt has said, consistent with the current local plan. You can't make up new policy. And so because there was no second road defined in the 2017 local plan, there is no second road in current policy. We may be able to persuade somebody to provide one, but we cannot insist upon one. And that is the dilemma that we face ourselves in. Does that make sense? So, to reflect on these proposals, I'd like to thank whoever went through all those consultations. What a mega task that was, pages of responses. But they do underline 2 things, one of which are the real concerns, and also, rather alarmingly, the large number of misconceptions. There are a lot of people who think you can stop this dead in its tracks. We don't want it. Not when you've agreed it in a local plan, you can't very easily. Somebody would have come forward and made an appeal and said, yes, you can, because you said it was possible before. So we're in a difficult situation. This is a good way forward, and I thank all those involved in developing this design code. I think it is going to provide a very effective tool. It won't be, of course, the final word, because it is a design code. All the other issues which crop up frequently, things about infrastructure, flooding, highways, sewers, absolutely. But fortunately, the NPPF is our friend here, and they have, whatever application comes forward, will have to comply with the NPPF and our current local plan. And so we do have a way of trying to insist on it is being delivered in a way that is appropriate and a positive for Ashbourne. So I do encourage you, plead with you really, to support this. We can go away this evening knowing that we've got this sort of little bit of armour around us and take it forward. I'd like to finally return to the theme about playing facilities, and absolutely Ashbourne needs more playing pitches. Did you know that in the last 12 years 700 houses have been built in Ashbourne? And as far as I know, there are planning approvals already given for another 400. We're talking about phase 2, that's another 1,100 on top of that. That's a lot of houses. As far as I know, in the last 12 years, there's not been a single additional playing pitch in Ashbourne that this council has delivered. So we're due some. Let's try to make this a mechanism where we can deliver some without actually breaking the law. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got a seconder from Councillor O'Brien, who I'm inviting to speak next.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to second this proposal to adopt this design code. In my working life, I came across a large number of similar codes and actually prepared quite a few. I have to say most of them are very much coffee table documents. They're full of warm words, lots of pictures, etc., but have absolutely no teeth. Well, this design code is quite the opposite. This is full of detail. It's prescriptive but collaborative, and it has teeth. And I think in many ways it's an exemplar way of approaching securing the future of the Ashbourne Airfield, so that residents to come over the next 20-25 years can be sure they are going to live and prosper in an environment that they will be proud of, that will be sustainable and meet their needs for many years. So I think we should, all of us, be really proud of the work that's gone into producing this document. On the aspects which were referred to by a number of members and during the presentation, that is how to secure many of the community facilities, the infrastructure, which is evidently required as part of the development of the site. Officers are quite right that this will form an essential part of our new local plan. And I can certainly assure members that the local plan committee have already taken that on board and will do everything they can to make sure that that part of the local plan is robust and addresses all those issues and ensures that those facilities are enshrined in policy. Once our local plan has been agreed by the council, although it be have to wait until 2028 before it's adopted, bear in mind that it will, during the intervening 2 years, be a material consideration in terms of any planning applications. So hopefully from from the autumn of this year, we will also have the security of knowing that we have a policy background as well as a design code to support the development of the airfield. So I'd like to thank all those involved in preparing this work, as I think it's absolutely first-class piece of work, and I hope all of us will support it unanimously. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. And can I just clarify that you're supporting the amendments that have been put forward as well? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. Like a never-ending record, isn't it, really? But I'd like to make an additional recommendation that we make provision, or provision is made somewhere on this site for an additional 4G pitch, as well as the one that's going on the school, because I think the school will be the school pitch. I'd like to see an additional 4G pitch for sporting purposes put somewhere on this site, because as Councillor Dobbs alluded to, the amount of houses we've had, yes, they are looking at further provision on the recreation ground, which will probably only just, if it does, cover the additional houses that's been built already. So I would like to put that as an additional recommendation.
So just to clarify, that would be recommendation 6, I think, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor G.
Second that, but could I just make a distinction here? Because
when we talk about football pitches, and I'm sure is it the manager of Ashbourne Football Club, there's a difference between a 4G and a 3G. Because I'd like to draw attention to the fact that I think Wirksworth are playing in a cup final tonight in Buxton, and they're playing on a 4G pitch that's floodlit. And I think 4G are better than 3G because Councillor Dobbs has mentioned 3G. So I'm not sure about the exact difference, but I've got some connection in the fact that I know one of the players who's playing, and he tells me he plays on different pitches and they are much better. So if we're talking about something in the future, we don't want to be putting something in that plan that's actually already a little bit behind the times. So could 4 be in place of 3, please?
It's most appropriate coming from yourself. Lots of G's there. Okay, Councillor Buttle.
Thank you, Roger. You've got me laughing about something where I was trying to pay attention. I'd very much like us not to support Councillor Lee's and Councillor G's amendment to the amendments, because I think Peter made a very strong argument about the density of housing, and we do really want to have any further work done on sports pitches done within the town rather than cramming everybody together, because people just need a bit of space. I was going to second this, and I'm fine with that. Let's just stick with Peter's position at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehead.
Well, I was just going to come back to Councillor G's point. So, from my experience of doing over 10 years of grassroots football, my understanding is footballers prefer to play on a 3G pitch because it has rubberised pellets to help grip. A 4G pitch is designed for multi-sport, so you can play tennis, hockey, football, multiple sports. So there is a distinct difference, so Councillor G is absolutely right. I would say I would kind of maybe sort of have a slight worry as well in terms of kind of, although I'm really supportive and I'd love to see these facilities right across our district, I am aware they're very costly. So I'm aware that like a 3G, 4G pitch is around about £1 million. So so are we saying that we as a council are going to fund that? Or maybe the amendment should at least state that we would look for external funding to support this, so it doesn't seem like we are signing up as a council to commit all that money. I definitely think we should commit some money to it, but I can't see how we could commit all the money to just one small project like that.
Councillor Lees?
Yeah, I'd like to add that to the amendment then, that we go to the Football Foundation to seek funding for such a thing. And as you've probably gathered, I'm not a sporting person, so I don't know whether a 3G, 4G pitch, which one's the best. Could we put 3 or 4G, or whichever suits the needs? You know, I don't know which is the better one. I was just going before. I thought 4's higher than 3, so that's, you know, I'm not knowledgeable enough to know which one would be preferred.
We do need some clear wording if we're going to vote on that potentially.
A 4's going to be more multi-use, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. I'm still not clear about the wording of the amendment that you and Councillor G.
Well, that additional funding is supplied for an additional 4G pitch, hopefully funded by the Football Foundation, towards something like that.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for looking in this direction for once. We, in discussion the other day about the application, about this design code, it was brought up that if we devoted space to an additional football pitch, it wasn't necessarily the cost of developing the football pitch that was the issue. It was the opportunity cost, because if you put another football pitch in, you get fewer houses, and that damages the appraisal of the site. So, can I ask for an assurance from officers before we vote on this, that we will not have to go out to consult with the developers about this before we can, and what the impact will be on the overall sustainability of this development.
I will put that question to the officers, although we are in debate.
Chair, what I would say on that is that the design code has been predicated on a viability assessment, which it has one pitch on the site, not two. So the assumptions which underlie it could well be undermined by that. Without going back and getting further viability work done, it will be hard to know that. And as has been pointed out earlier, we are on a timeline with this. All I would say, if I may, at this point, is if members wanted to add, not to change the design code, not to change the SBD itself, because, as has been indicated, the time to do that has passed, but if members wanted to add a separate recommendation to seek external funding for a 3 or 4G pitch in Ashbourne, without specifying where, that wouldn't be a problem from the point of view of this. It would be a separate recommendation. It wouldn't influence the design code, the SBD, but it could send the signal that members are interested in sending, if that would help. Chair.
Thank you. I think it probably would. Yes, Councillor Bond.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm grateful for what Steve has just said. I think there's a slight danger for me in thinking that concentration on football is kind of the thing. I'm a paddle player myself, and there's you might like to know that there's a new paddle facility opening every week in the UK, right the way across the UK. It's the fastest growing sport in the world, and I think we should take note of that. But the thing about sports facilities is that it increases congestion, it increases light pollution, it increases noise pollution, it increases issues around nuisance for local residents where these things spring up. And I think all of those things need to be taken into account when we're thinking about additional sports facilities. I want to see additional sports facilities, but I do feel it's a slightly different debate, a slightly different question, and it is one that we definitely should have within this chamber, with probably a separate report and consultation aim, really. And so I'm happy to accept Councillor Dobbs' recommendations, but I certainly would at some point like to see a full and frank consultation and discussion about the whole range of sports and fitness facilities across the Dales. Thank you.
I'm sure that point's been noted. Councillor Flitter, you had your hand up a minute ago.
Yeah, Chair. It's just a matter of I need some clarity. We've got a motion being put down with recommendations from Councillor Dobbs, and then we've had some amendments. But as I see it, you said over to the other side, is that going to be number 6? Well, that's not been accepted by the mover or the seconder to add to a recommendation. So how are you going to treat this vote? Are you going to take the amendments separate? We need that clarity, please.
So my understanding is that we will vote on this second amendment that's come forward. If that succeeds, then that will come back for decision as part of the primary motion that's going forward, the substantive motion that's going forward. Okay. We've got a number of hands up, so yes, I haven't forgotten you. Don't worry. Councillor O'Brien first.
Following on from Councillor Fitter's point, I think it would be helpful to know from the proposer whether he is prepared to accept the amendment from Councillor Lees.
Shall I speak on that? Thank you. I think we're in very dangerous territory when we design multi-million facilities on the fly. When a viability assessment of this project has taken place, knowing the strength of feeling about additional playing pitches in Ashbourne. In other words, if it was humanly possible to lever it in and still get 1,100 homes in a reasonable layout, it would have happened. So I think we have to take the second best. As I said before, the nail was in when they said 1,100 houses in this number of hectares. That was it. You then can't play, your manoeuvring is pretty limited. So we need to go on from here. I'm perfectly happy to add it as a, what are we up to, 6th point, if we explore the possibility, and of course it already is being explored, explore the possibility of, with help from the Football Foundation, of funding a 3G pitch elsewhere in Ashbourne. And of course we have also HC14, which should leverage money from developments. You know, that's all perfectly possible and should be happening. So I'm afraid no to the we must have a 3G/4G pitch on phase 2. It won't fit. But yes, if you're prepared to say we'll put in as recommendation 6, we explore the possibility of another football pitch somewhere in Ashbourne with the help from the Football Foundation. Happy about that.
Okay, so just for clarity there, it sounds like we have a proposal. I'm looking at Councillor Lees and Councillor G here for a recommendation 6, which would say to explore the possibility of funding a 3G football pitch elsewhere in Ashbourne. Is that acceptable?
I'm just digesting it at the moment because I'm just trying to think.
Carry on digesting for a minute then.
Because they're not making no more land, and I'm just thinking where this land's going to come from.
Okay. Have a think on that for a second. We've got a couple of other members who wish to speak. Councillor Wayne, I think.
Thank you. I think, to be honest, Mr. Capes came out with a valid point there. I think, and also Councillor Bond, you're going to have a lot of people moving into these houses, hopefully, in Ashbourne on that in the old industrial estate. And there is a lot of light pollution, a lot of noise, a lot of vehicles, and I personally think that you've got a lovely area in the park for sport, and there's been money spent on the pavilion. I think that is the most suitable place. Now, I'm not a paddleboarder myself, but I do feel that the 4G pitch might not be the most suitable thing for footballers, but it's a lot better for people who play rugby, for them to train on, and for other people to go and do other sports on, because there's more to this world than football. And there's a lot of other people that want to play this thing. And the light pollution wouldn't be so bad down in that area, because, you know, down on the park. So I'd be more supportive if we could mediate and try and get us a resolution 6 that fits in, that we support. And the Sports England, and there's the Football Foundation, and loads of other people work together. And I don't think there would be a massive issue in getting enough money to do it down there, personally. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes? No, okay. Councillor G.
Yeah, I'm happy to support Councillor Dobbs's original recommendation on the basis that if there is a manoeuvre for a second pitch, could we have it in Bakewell, please? Because there's not, obviously there isn't space in Ashbourne. And we do have a position in Bakewell where it can go straight away.
We all have. We all have it, everyone.
Am I allowed to treat that as a conjectural suggestion? Yeah. Councillor Dobbs?
Would you like the houses as well?
Okay. All right. So I think we've come to the conclusion of our debate. Thank you. We have got a suggestion for an additional recommendation 6, which you've heard. That's to explore the possibility of external funding of a 3G football pitch elsewhere in Ashbourne. We should take a vote on that first, shouldn't we?
Just clarify that the seconder is happy with the amendments that Councillor Dobbs was that he's agreed to go to his amended version.
Yes, we've got a seconder for that, haven't we?
Yeah, but that's the motion. So
And we've got a seconder for the original motion.
Sorry, Chair, but Councillor Dobbs was accepting of recommendation 6.
He's accepted it already, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the seconder...
That was Councillor Dobbs, sorry, Councillor O'Brien, yeah.
Just check that he's happy.
Are you happy with that being incorporated as well?
I'm happy, and I think if the proposed and seconder are happy to incorporate, that becomes a substantive motion.
Okay. It sounds like we've got agreement all round there. Thank you. Councillor Dobbs, would you like to round off this?
Thank you, Chair. Clearly people feel passionately about this. It touches nerves in many areas. People are passionate about their sport, and Ashbourne deserves pitches. I think we found a good compromise. So we've got this design code, hopefully over the line. Please vote for it. And also this additional possibility of leveraging the development and Football Foundation to fund a pitch, 3G probably elsewhere, probably on the rec. We'll see. I'm happy with that, and I do encourage you to support it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right. So we've got those amendments then, which are put before you. Just to remind you, there's also the additional 3 musts, which we've got a note of as well there. So we're wrapping this up as a single vote then. Can we have all those in favour, please show? We think that's unanimous. Thank you. That is now passed. Thank you, members. Move on to item 10 then, which is the Revenue Budget Monitoring Quarter. Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report explains that based on spending to 31st of December and our estimates for the remainder of the financial year, we're forecasting a revenue account underspending of £1.22 million for 25-26. I'm sure that this will change, this figure will change over the remainder of the year before I need to come back to report the outturn to you in July. But this was our best estimate at the time of writing the report. So the reasons for the underspending are given in the table in the report. The 3 major contributors are investment income being higher than predicted by £364,000 due to interest rates and balances being higher than expected. Savings from vacant posts being £290,000 and income from default notices on the waste contract £258,000. I want to reassure members on the latter that the extra income from default notices doesn't reflect on a sudden deterioration in the waste contract. What it does reflect is that we hadn't previously budgeted for income of that level, although there was a history of receiving it. We changed that practice for the budget for 26-27. So of the £1.2 million forecast underspend, around £556,000, almost half of it, has been assessed as ongoing and was already reflected in the revenue budget that you approved about 3 weeks ago. The remaining £655,000 was assessed as one-off, specifically to 25-26. However, discussions today with the Council's Treasury advisors, Arlene Close, have indicated that the war in the Middle East is likely to increase interest rates and increase inflation above what we included in the budget for 26-27 and the MTFP. So, as I said at the start of this presentation, the forecast is likely to change, and so is the budget and the MTFP. So over the next few weeks, officers will be assessing the implications of higher interest rates and inflation, and we'll reflect that in an updated medium-term financial plan when we report to you in July. Regarding the use of the £1.2 million underspend, paragraph 1.20 of the report recommends that after we've deducted the £424,000 that members approved to go to a reserve at the last revenue budget report, the remaining amount should be transferred into a new reserve to be known as the Financial Sustainability Reserve to support the delivery of savings required to balance the budget in the longer term. I'll remind members that the current MTFP shows budget deficits of £700,000 in 27-28 £2.8 million in 2028-29 and £4.2 million in 2029-30. Using an approach of putting previous underspends into a reserve meant that we were able to take £1.3 million from reserves in order to balance the budget for 26-27. A similar approach will ensure that the need for service cuts is kept to a minimum in future years. I'm asking members to approve the 3 recommendations set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions? Councillor Whitehead.
Hey Karen, thanks for your report. So just on the underspend, so creating the Sustainability Finance Fund, is that really the best use of the money? When we've got so many things, so many priorities across our districts. And then it was quite interesting to see in the LGR announcements earlier this week how quickly the government went to write off deficits of those new councils. So with us being so prudent, is that not working against our residents?
Well, my recommendation is that we do put the money into a reserve because we do have a legal duty to set a balanced budget. If the money is not put in a reserve to be available to balance those budgets in 27-28 and 28-29, then members, in order to balance the budget, would have to consider service reductions. That's been very difficult in the past. We're already embarking on a review of that to close the gap for 27-28. But the figure of £2.8 million for 28-29 is very challenging. So my cautious approach would be to keep the money in a reserve so that you can balance future budgets rather than spend it now. Your second point about writing off deficits, I've not read the announcement from yesterday, so I wasn't aware of that. But certainly in the past, MHCLG have been reluctant to do that. I'm not aware they've done that in the past. They've allowed councils to put up council tax by more than the capping limit. They've allowed councils to use capital receipts in order to balance their revenue budgets, but we don't have any large capital receipts or any surplus assets to generate large capital receipts. So that's news to me that they've allowed that.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question about detail, I suppose. I was interested in the electricity underspend, given that we have put in place heat pumps in this building, certainly, and probably elsewhere. And I was interested to know if the change in heating has resulted in a reduction in the gas bill and an increase in the electricity bill, but not one that would, but not as much as we were intending.
I don't have that detail, and I would need to consult with colleagues to find that out.
It would be quite an interesting calculate to determine whether there was what the change in position would be.
So we could seek some detail on that in the interval between meetings. Thank you. Any other questions? Go on.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this if that's.
Oh, right, okay. So proposer, Councillor Hughes.
As usual, Karen, you've produced an extremely clear and easily readable report, and one. I was going to talk about all the things you've talked about, so I'm not going to say anything more. Just to thank you for a very clear and easily readable report and for providing us with the ability to make a saving.
Councillor Slack is seconding. Thank you. So we'll move into debate. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. Some of you will have heard me make this point before. If we look at the underspend since 2019-20, the cumulative underspend comes to £12,186,293. I don't want to comment on the reasons for that, But when we set that against the budget we set recently for the for next year, 7.997 million requirement through council tax, you can see that our surplus is over 1.5 times the annual requirement. I'm simply saying that we should bear that £12 million in mind when we start thinking about the need for making what are relatively minor, minuscule cuts in services over the next 12 months. Because I think if our residents were aware that we've made a profit of over £12 million in the last 6 years, they would wonder why there is a need to make cuts in services. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor G.
I don't want to see this as a stab at Karen because she's doing the best job she can, and it's right that she needs to keep that money in their bank account. But this council is going to run out of any time, as Councillor Whitehead has pointed out, to make any decisions. And I think to continue to keep all that money in reserve and not try and give some back to our community in Derbyshire Dales, I'm slightly surprised that this council hasn't got some sort of aspiration to try and give a bonus in some way, either good causes, slight reduction in council tax, because we're going to be gone. And this money that's left in Derbyshire Dales District Council that's come from taxpayers, it's not our money, it's not Karen Henrikson's money, it's taxpayers' money in Derbyshire Dales. That's going to go to Chesterfield or Derby. So we're running out of time to have any real method by which to help our communities. We're struggling to provide facilities. So just keeping this big bank account that's accumulating, putting council tax up when people are desperate and they can't afford it because their eating bills are going up and such like. So, I'm really concerned about this policy. I'm sorry.
Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support Karen's very sensible way to run a financial service. This issue of what we're facing now, it could go either way. It's getting very desperate in the Middle East now, and not to have a standby money ready for eventualities which will come along if it goes on much longer. I mean, we can't risk having something real. We've got to have reserves for eventualities like this, and we can use that money to get through it better than what a lot of councils will. And as Councillor G said, we've got over 2 years yet as Steve Capes has said, to run. So we've got to be very prudent here, and I fully support Karen's. As you know, she's the best, really good financial officer. Thank you.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. As with the others, I think we all admire Karen and all the hard work she does, and she is very prudent, but fellow councillors do make some very good points. I mean, for an example, it's a few years ago now, and we were told, we had to close the toilets. There was no money for the toilets. The leader at that time, nobody wanted to do that, but we had to do that. Money's now been found to open those toilets. We've had these underspends going forward, and, perhaps we do need to have a little bit of a think about what we can give back to our communities and, the people who are struggling, because they just see their bills going up everywhere, not just in the council. So I think it's good for us just to, acknowledge that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dobbs.
Thank you, Chair. I don't quite recognise the scene that Councillor G and others are painting. I seem to remember a report on the reserves, and in pretty well every case it says allocated, allocated, allocated. They're not just pots. They are potential projects. Okay, maybe they won't happen, but they certainly won't happen if you take the money out of those pots. So I think that for those at home, I'm not sure that if you scrutinise all the papers that have been presented to this council, that the position where we've got 12 million slopping around with nowhere to go is a realistic situation to present. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Bond.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, this is a third quarter report, and I'm very happy to support the recommendations. I do hear the issue about underspending and how we allocate and how we then move forward in this council. I think it is a worthy conversation to have, but I think it's a conversation to be had in a different place and at a different time. We're being asked to support these recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Flitter.
Thank you, Chair. Sometimes I think that, you know, the bailiffs coming in, get rid of everything. That's the attitude of some members, and I can't just recollect with that myself. And I know what Councillor Whitehead is attaining to, because in yesterday's letter from the government, there's a commitment to repay in principle, not to actually repay, but repay in principle 200 million of Thurrock Council's debt in 26-27. But it is only a commitment in principle. But what I worry about is that we see an underspend, and it's right, rub my hands, where we're going to spend it. Well, I said this afternoon to somebody, we may only have 2 years, we may be dying as a council, but we're not dead yet. And we need that money to make sure we've got a future. Now, there may be some monies to put back into the community at the given time, but now is not that time. And I urge everybody to support the prudence of Karen, that she's, over the years, she's steered this council in the right direction financially. And what we should be doing is seriously listening to that advice, accepting that advice. Because one thing I want is, when we do leave here, whether it be 1 or 2 years' time, I want these services that we provide to continue. Now, if we give all that money back, that means nothing to people in the amounts that we can afford. Those services will fall and they will fail, and we will be to blame. So just bear that in mind when you start to look at where you want savings to go. We've been advised, we should take that advice. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Buckler.
It's in some ways come back to Councillor Flitter, because I know that if Councillor Wilton were here, he would say that there's a methodology for looking at some of this stuff, so that we're not just looking at it on the hoof, and it would just be good to get to see if the leaders have an update on how that process is going, because whilst I recognise the point that people have made around reserves and where reserves are going, that there was that they were developing a mechanism for looking at that underspend. So it'd be good to, Councillor Wilton would have said about it if he were here, but he isn't.
Okay, Councillor G.
I'll just put a slight correction on this, because I think this has been what I think another councillor was suggesting. It's not about spending all the money, it's about having some aspiration to take a slightly different route, because, and on the timetable that Councillor Flitter has suggested, it's not quite right. We haven't got 2 years, because Paul Wilson's told us that with LGR there'll come a time this summer when any decision on spending is going to be taken out of our hands. We're going to be cut off. Is that correct? That if this LGR goes the way it's going, sometime this summer, you're not going to be able to make any decisions. It'll be, and other than the basic decisions of keeping the council going. So the clock is ticking, and it's ticking a lot faster than you think. And
okay, thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Chair, I think at a previous meeting we discussed having a working group to look at what to do about services, given that we were going to run a deficit, likely to run a deficit of up to £4 million on, I think it was 27, 28 and succeeding years if we still exist. And I think that what we could do is include discussion of, and we would include discussion of the reserves within that discussion of what to do about services. So I think the sort of work that councillors are suggesting is already, there is a mechanism for doing that work already agreed amongst ourselves. In terms of the actual amounts, the total reserves in March 2025 were 24 million, according to the report. They go down to 20 million approximately in March this year, and then they go down again to 15 and 15.3 million at the end of March 2027. So we will have a substantial amount of money left available in the reserves at that stage. Most of it of which is earmarked to different issues. For example, 1.5 million for new waste vehicles, which we will need to buy. So that would reduce it to about 14 million. But there may be money available to keep our services running. And I think at this stage, we put the money into a reserve and then we can pull it out when we need it, and over those two-year periods. So I really think that Karen is doing the right thing at this stage by recommending that we put it into a reserve and not trying to spend it on the fly in a meeting. We need to have good reasons for spending it, and I know, keeping services going is one. Possibly, if we do actually have a lot of money left over, housing might be another. But I think that's for another group to determine at this stage, and putting it into reserves allows us to do that.
Okay. Now, I've allowed one councillor to speak more than once. Councillor Whitehead, it's very, very brief, please.
I didn't realise there was a rule that you couldn't speak more than once. Is that a new rule just for me?
Not just for you.
Right. So I think the thing I struggle with this, though, is I think it was this time last year, off the back of this very same meeting, that we said there was going to be this methodology where we would look at projects to send in a spin on. But I've not seen any outcomes of that at all. I've not seen any projects come out of it. I've not seen any commitment of money. We talked about maybe kind of one of the things I'd really like to see is investing in our parks a lot more. Kind of leaving a legacy when our council ends, that we can say to the residents of Derbyshire Dales, we've left this place in a really good state. Because we know that the next authority are probably much more less likely to invest in our parks, in our local facilities, and in our parish villages. So we have the opportunity to do that now. But we seem to just want to sort of obfuscate and kind of save the money as a day for kind of a rainy day which may never come, because I think we're always quite prudent in our financial forecasts, and we generally seem to always do better than we forecast. So it's a little bit of a puzzle, really. So I'd be really happy if we could have clarity on what this mechanism, what these working groups are. I was told I was going to be invited to it. I've never had that invite. So I'm really puzzled. So if kind of Councillor Flitter can confirm to us that we do have this mechanism, that we're not just going to sit on this money to the very last minute, and then what you know, we've run out of time, and the big social care bill of the new authority is going to say, thank you very much, Derbyshire Dales, we'll suck all that up, and our taxpayers, our council taxpayers, who paid in this district council, are going to get nothing. So to me, it's unacceptable. I won't be voting for this tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Flitter, would you like to make a comment on that?
Yeah, I will comment on that, Chair, because there will be a mechanism put in place. At this very moment, the terms of reference are being worked out, and we will be coming, you know, to sort this problem out. And on the comments about, you know, we have a corporate plan of which you were part of making. We're working through that corporate plan, and we hope that we can certainly finish that corporate plan by the time that we are moved to another authority. So it is on board, it has been discussed, but, you know, I'm hoping that by the end of next month, it may come to fruition.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Slack, you're the seconder for this motion, aren't you?
Yeah, can I just make one point, Chair?
Yes.
Let's talk about rainy days. The rainy days here. It's the Middle East crisis is going to grow and grow, and interest rates are going to go up, and we're going to be in serious trouble. So it's common sense. Let's be honest. It's common sense. We've got to put this money away to protect our services. And if this blows over, which in the Middle East, which I sincerely hope it will do, we can then allocate more money out to different areas. But at the moment, a sensible thing is to put this in reserve. There's no doubt about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We've had a good discussion on that. Councillor Butler, I'll tolerate this because you haven't spoken yet.
I'll just be quick then. Some of the spare money which we seem to have, though we all accept that it's not spare, I think it could be pointed towards our members of staff. We're going to see quite a lot of movement of people with LGR looking for new jobs and what have you, and I think it'd be really quite nice to make sure that we are paying our staff sufficiently well that they're not poached.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor White.
Thank you. It has been really interesting listening to that, and I'm very frustrated by us having this money, and basically it's come to us because of interest rates. A lot of this has come to us for interest rates, but a lot of other people, whereas we've made some money, a lot of people are paying more in the mortgage. A lot of people are suffering, and I don't feel that I'm totally conflicted with this, because I've heard regularly on these meetings that we're going to look at mechanisms and mechanisms and mechanisms, and it hasn't been forthcoming. And I'm seriously on the fence regarding this, because I'm really frustrated that people see us in this meeting, all three people are watching. But you know, I think that it is very, very wrong of us to keep putting money away and just say we'll put all that money away. We should be able to say we've made £1.2 million on this. We'll take a proportion of it and try and do something meaningful. Because Councillor Whitehead's totally right. When we get gobbled up by a larger organisation, they're not going to think, oh, you can have that £12 million or whatever's left, or if there is anything. They're going to want that, and we are going to be the poor relation, and that's why I'm not an advocate of LGR. But yeah, I'm disappointed and frustrated and conflicted. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I think we're ready to move to the vote on this one. So there's three recommendations in front of you here. You can see all those. We'll take them all as a block. Can I see all those in favour? Please show your hands. Okay. Those against? And abstentions? None. Thank you, that's clearly carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 11, supplementary additional legal team resources. Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members may recall that back at the Council meeting in November, it was agreed that a review would be undertaken of the capacity within the legal team following various staffing changes within the establishment. I'm pleased to advise members that that review has now been undertaken by the Director of Governance and Corporate Services, and the report before you this evening effectively presents the outcome of that in terms of identifying the impact that the existing workload and predicted future workload will have upon the establishment. I think it's fair to say that the Council's legal service underpins pretty much every single activity that this Council undertakes, be that contracts, be it legal advice on planning, be it providing support to you as individual members, and dealing with a whole raft of very significant operational issues. The review indicates that at the moment there is a very large and complex workload that they're carrying, approximately 270 cases, and that given the staffing changes that have been made, there is a real risk with the challenges that are likely to come down to us through the LGR process, that the existing resource base that we have will be insufficient to be able to deal with the various commitments that we have. I think it's fair to say that there is also a degree of frustration within some parts of the Council's operations regarding work which may be of a lower corporate priority, but nonetheless is important to you as individual members. Some things take longer to progress because we do have to prioritise the most significant areas of work. I think there's a very strong link between what I'm saying in this report and the report that you've just considered, because in order to provide the additional resource that I'm asking for and recommending in this report, that resource can only be provided because it's going to be financed from an underspend in previous years with you creating a resource. And that resource was the recruitment and retention reserve, where a previous underspend allowed a very significant amount of money to be set aside to deal with issues regarding training, development, recruitment, retention. And I think the point that Councillor Hughes has just made is absolutely right, in that we put money in that reserve and we withdraw it when we need it. This is one case when we need it. Had we not had that reserve, I wouldn't have been able to present this report to you this evening because it would have impacted upon the Council's bottom line in the revenue budget. However, the proposal that I'm presenting to you can be afforded on a 2-year fixed contract basis by drawing on that reserve, no long-term impact on the bottom line Council's revenue position, and it will give you the additional assets that I feel we need and the Director and the legal team feel we need to do the work that you're asking of us. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Thanks. And are there any questions? No, apparently not. Do we have a proposer for this? Thank you. And a seconder? Oh, we're sport for choice here. So I'll take Councillor Buckler as a seconder. So Councillor Ripton and Councillor Buckler. Does anyone want to debate this at all? Councillor Linthwaite.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make the comment really that we've been talking about our reserves and what we do with it, and I think this is one of those examples whereby, because we have been prudent and we have got money in reserves, when the support services that keep us running as a council require extra staff in order to improve and to continue to develop those services, we can say yes readily and quickly. We recently awarded more money for the outdoor activities staff, and if you've read the update document, 6,500 people, 6,400 and something people have taken part in the walks that have been organised, and there's a walking festival coming up in May, I think, that we and our dog will be attending, and it's things like this where you can see now things that are happening in the community that we're using the reserves for and people are benefiting from. So yes, I'm very happy to support this.
Okay. Councillor G.
Have we done questions?
We have done questions.
Oh, is it too late to ask a question? Just a little one. Could I just... Okay, I'll make a point. Given the difficulty that we've had in recruiting, is this council going to be able to find somebody to fill this role? That's what I'd like to ask.
Okay. Paul, could you just comment on that briefly, please?
I'm very happy to respond to that, Chair, and I think the honest answer is it will be a challenge because it's a very, very competitive market out there at the moment. People are moving around, as Councillor Buttle has referred to, and we will always try and position ourselves in such a way that we can make an attractive offer, but I'm not going to pretend it's going to be easy because it won't be. but we do have other means at our disposal, again, paid for through the recruitment and retention reserve, where we can offer a degree of enhancement to try and attract the right candidate. But it won't be easy, but we're going to try.
Okay. I've got Councillor Hughes, you're first.
Thank you. In that case, if we can't recruit, I know that Matlock Town Council has been waiting for a piece of land to be transferred since before I was a councillor in 2018, 19. So that's what, 7 years or so that we've been waiting for that piece of land because of delays in processing in legal. Not here necessarily, but overall in Matlock Town Council, as well as in Derbyshire Dales, and in the various people had issues, had some rights over the land, and they needed to be consulted, and so they had legal input into it as well. Can I suggest that if we can't recruit somebody quickly, we just use some more of our reserves to get a legal firm involved to actually expedite this, because we do actually have a real problem in legal affairs, so we need to solve that problem.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sue Burfoot.
Thank you, Chair. I would go along with what Councillor Hughes has just said. I think the work that the legal team do is very, I'm sure, is very demanding and complex, but often it's going on in the background that we don't really sort of see, apart from certainly when I've been chairing the planning committee, I've been very grateful for the advice given by Kerry usually. So I think this is certainly a way to spend this tiny little bit of money that we have available, and I'm sure the officers will do everything that they can to get somebody. And if not, as Councillor Hughes says, perhaps we have to go out and pay a bit more.
Councillor Bond.
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Hughes, I'm not sure. Is that a proposal? Is it a recommendation to be added to the list? Is it just a throwaway comment? I'm happy to take the recommendation as standing there, but if you wanted to add another recommendation, it would obviously mean that you'd have to have some idea of what it would mean if we can't recruit. How long would we leave it, for instance, before we decide to do what you're suggesting? I wondered if you got something a bit more concrete in mind.
I could make it more concrete.
Yes, if you'd like to put forward
I will put
proposal.
forward I would suggest that if we can't recruit within 60 days, if we can't get an offer out in 60 days to somebody, then we get a consultant in to do the work instead.
Before we pursue that one, I'd just like to bring Paul back in, because he has a view on this.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, just picking up on the sentiments that are being expressed, the key reason why this report is before you is because Council needs to approve the release of the reserve, the budget. So perhaps the easiest way through this is to literally just approve the budget, and that will give us the ability to either seek a contract solicitor, or to utilise it through other means. But once the budget's approved by Council, if you're happy to give officers flexibility to deploy that to meet the objective, then that would be the approach I would suggest.
Okay. I'm not sure if that needs an amendment or not.
I can amend the officer recommendation, Chair, if need be, literally by just taking out I'll read it out. So the Council approves a supplementary revenue budget of 138,427 to be financed from the recruitment and retention reserve to source additional legal capacity and resource.
Okay. Is that acceptable to members? Yes, I'm seeing assent to that. Okay. So we had a proposer, which I think Councillor Ripton, yes, that's right, and a second, Councillor Buckler. You're happy with that as well? Okay, excellent. Can we move straight to the vote, please, on this then? All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you. I have noticed the time. Yes. Okay, so yes, we are 5 minutes away from requiring an extension. Can I see a proposer in favour of extending for half an hour, please, Councillor Buckler? Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Martin Burfoot. All those in favour, please show. Right, so we're on till 9 o'clock at least. Thank you, unless we finish before. Item 12, local government reorganisation. Paul, over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. As members are aware, we are in the final few hours, actually, of the government's consultation on proposals for reorganisation in Derbyshire and Derby, and the purpose of this report is twofold. Firstly, to seek the views of Council whether you wish to respond to the consultation invitation that's been published by MHCLG, and if so, to determine the nature of that Council response. As a statutory consultee, we do have the opportunity to respond to all 5 proposals which have been submitted to the government. As members are aware, Derbyshire Dales didn't submit a proposal, but those that have been submitted are outlined at paragraph 1.3 of the report. The response, if we were to provide one, has to be in a pro forma format. The questions are basically outlined by government at paragraph 2.2, and they are on a sliding scale of response relative to the degree of agreement that you wish to express. In presenting this report, clearly it's important that we have a framework for you to consider. The Progressive Alliance, as the controlling administration, have proposed a draft response which is included as Appendix 1 to the report, which indicates the strength of feeling relative to each question for each proposal. So, as the presenting officer, that's the starting point that I'm putting to you. In addition to that, there is a supplementary statement which the Progressive Alliance administration have also proposed for your consideration. The one point I would need to make is that the response has to be provided by midnight tonight. So there is very, very little opportunity to write lengthy additional statements, get them agreed and submitted. So I would implore members to just bear that in mind in the debate that will follow. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any questions to Paul? Councillor Paul.
All I can say is, bearing in mind that we actually had a vote as regards what options and the likes we were going to put forward in the previous meeting, I believe it was January, and we stated that we weren't going any further, and it's proved that because we haven't actually put a proposal in for ourselves, then we didn't want to make one of our own and put an option in. So why should we be saying the options on there? Are we going back against ourselves by saying we didn't want a voice now because we didn't want to put an option there? So my point is, you know, this is too short in the day. We're sitting here at 8:30 tonight, knowing that at midnight this reply has to go back, and I think it's really wrong in something so important. We should have thought about this when it was an issue and when we knew what was going on before. We've took away that. We've had that chance. We know the consultation has been there. It's been open for 5 weeks. So why haven't that come to us in any kind, whether it be an extraordinary meeting, for us to try and discuss this, rather than pushing it in front of us now and saying, make a decision whether you want to put this report in and that's what you want to propose. I'm sorry, I just feel that this is out of order in the way we're going about it.
Okay, you've made your point. We're not in questions again now, so that's a rhetorical debate point, I think. Councillor G.
Are we debating?
We're in debate.
No,
Oh, sorry. Still in questions. My apologies.
Can I propose it?
Yeah. So that's a real question. Do we have a response, Paul, on that?
Yes, happy to respond, Chair. Well, yes, we are in the final few hours of the consultation, but this consultation has been live for 7 weeks, and there's been extensive publicity afforded to it, not just with our own members, but with the Derbyshire Dales communities. The report that previously was considered by Council in regard to the options, that wasn't a statutory consultation. This is an invitation from the Secretary of State to Derbyshire Dales to say, do you want to have a say in the options that have been put forward by other councils? It's nothing more than that, but as the democratic elected representatives of the Derbyshire Dales communities, this is the opportunity for you to say formally to the Secretary of State what your view is on the strength of feeling regarding the options that he has received. So that's the reason why it's being presented, but there's been plenty of opportunity for other representations to be submitted before this evening.
Okay, so I had a number of hands up, which I'm assuming for questions then. Councillor. All right, okay, we'll hang on to yours then. Are there any other questions? Councillor Wayne.
I got muddled up with my A's and my A1s, but is A1 where we are strongly agreeing that Alfreton should be divided into two? Amber Valley. Sorry, Amber Valley. Yeah, okay, thank you.
I believe it's one of those options, yes, that's right. Okay, so is this a question?
It's almost a question. May I suggest that we don't respond?
Well, you can do, yes. If that's a proposal. Needs a seconder, of course.
So that's recommendation one.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we could choose to vote against recommendation one. That would be very simple. We're still taking questions at the moment. Councillor. Yeah, Councillor Point.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, we've got till midnight tonight. There are 10 questions here. How are we going to answer those? If we decide to respond, how are we going to answer those 10 questions and get the reply in by midnight, please?
Paul?
Well, that's why Appendix 1 has been included in the report. So there needed to be a starting point for the debates and discussion around this. So the Progressive Alliance, as the controlling administration, have proposed the responses in Appendix 1 as the starting point for debate. And it's for you as members to determine whether you agree with that response or not.
Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Response should be that majority of councils have come out, district council in Derbyshire have come out with the proposal that there should be a split somewhere near Belper in the Amber Valley. I think we should follow the majority of the other councils, what they've decided, and join those to make it more stronger. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Hughes.
Chair, there isn't a heading to the different options in this one, so it's difficult to determine whether, in Appendix 1, but it's difficult to determine which option is being favoured. But if I recall correctly, we were represented in the set of district councils in Derbyshire who came together and came to some sort of decision. Now, in the end, they split, but in the discussions that were had, I believe that we were favouring A1 at that stage, and that was brought back to this council in an earlier meeting, and we debated all of this then. And the points that are at the bottom of A1 that Bob Butcher has kindly listed at the bottom of A1 of the appendix are the points that were made in the debate. So I don't see that there is any need to discuss this any further. What we're doing is reiterating what we would have said at that point when we found out that we couldn't make a formal representation because we did not vote in favour of local government reorganisation. So I don't see the point. And so, Councillor Bull, we debated this months ago. Basically, and we came to a decision, and this paper represents the decision that we came to at that point.
Okay, so I am still dealing with questions at the moment, can I remind you? I know it wasn't actually, yes, I noticed that too. Are there any other questions, genuinely? Councillor Dobbs.
Yeah, it's cheating really. Can we move straight to a motion and debate?
We can.
In which case, can I propose that the answer to recommendation 1 is we do put in a response, and that the answer to question 2 is that it is the response showed on pages 378 and 379, because exactly as Councillor Hughes has said, we've had this debate. This grid is a pretty good representation of what was said on that evening, and we could spend forever going through the permutations of numbers in this grid if we wanted to. Do we really want to? I hope not. Thank you,
Right,
Chair.
so we have a proposal for the 2 recommendations down here. Seconded by Councillor Peacock, I think, got in there first. But I have got a number of hands up. Councillor Ripton? No, okay. Does anybody... Councillor O'Brien, I think you've got a pencil in the air. Is that... Do you wish to speak?
I do, Chair. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. We took a vote on the original proposal, as Councillor Ball said, not to support any of the proposals for reorganisation. Now, whether individually we agreed on that or not, collectively we took that vote. So I personally think we should be consistent with that line and not express a view on which of the alternatives we prefer. I do think the additional supplementary statement on page 379 is very relevant. So I would like to put an amendment that we do, to the effect that we do make a response, but our response is limited to the additional supplementary statement on page 379.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Buttle, it sounds like it. Yeah. Okay.
Point of order, Chair. There's a move that we went straight to the vote, and now we're debating a further amendment.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was straight to the vote. It was to go into debate, I think, which we are now in. I'm looking for.
Just on a matter of when
Yeah.
filling the form out, I'm not quite sure whether you can just put
Okay.
this in without actually answering the questions. I don't know whether that
All
physically
right.
allow.
So I do have a query here anyway about the legitimacy of decoupling the table from the additional supplementary statement. I think are we just checking that at the moment?
Well, it says this is to ignore that, just
We can do that because there's a majority just
Yes. It sounds like we are able to do that. So we have a proposer and a seconder to do that. We're in debate now. Does anybody else, Councillor G, you want to speak on this?
Yeah, because I go back to the night when we had that that discussion before, and very clearly the council voted against the case for change. And I think on that particular night, and I think this was mentioned by another councillor, and this is not far from me, it should have stopped. We shouldn't have even had the laborious discussion about A1, A2, AB or whatever. We voted against the case for change. So I think we should just move on to item 13 and just ignore this completely.
Okay, that's your view. Thank you. Councillor Peacock.
I take issue with what Councillor O'Brien and Councillor G have just said. We did vote for proposal A1, but we did also vote very narrowly, I recall, against accepting the report as a whole. Those are very, very different things. That does not mean we do not accept any option. But fundamentally, we are in this position now, right? This is going to happen. We can either throw all of our toys out of the pram, say we don't want to have this, and let the decision be made for us, or we can express, because we do actually have a preferred option among these options.
Okay. Councillor Linthwaite.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to support what Councillor Peacock said. If I remember rightly, we rather cut our noses off to spite our faces last time, that by voting against LGR as a whole, which I think many of us are against, it prevented us from putting our thoughts forward in terms of if it's forced upon us, what we would like to see and how we would like to see things organised. By approving this and allowing these comments to go forward, at least it allows our voices to be heard. And if we just go stamp our feet and say, no, we don't want to talk about it, it is going to be imposed upon us without anybody. I mean, the fact that we're one of 5 councils that haven't put forward a suggestion, I think is shameful. I'm embarrassed by that, frankly. And I think by putting our thoughts forward in this way, at least our voices will be heard.
Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do agree with Councillor Peacock. I think it's shameful, really, that we didn't make a decision. We should have made a decision on that night. Same as he said, there's only 5 councils overall in the country have done the same. I think we made a big mistake. I think a lot of councillors were going for one Derbyshire, and they're trying to blight the job. I think if we bury his head in the sand now, it's silly. We should support what's gone off now and redeem ourselves, really, and vote for it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask members just to be quiet while others are talking? Councillor Whitehead.
Yes, I was going to say I agree it was a disastrous decision for us not to have made the decision back in January. It was idiotic. But my recollection of the January meeting was actually when we did take the vote on the option, it was so confused, no one knew what they were voting for because we had contradictory kind of recommendation and a second, which was completely different. We allowed that to be voted through, made a mockery of the whole night, really. So it was kind of absolutely ingrained in my head because it was so embarrassing. Embarrassing because we didn't make a decision, embarrassing because we just absolutely cocked up the vote. And thirdly, the option that we preferred and the option that I see in this table again is this option to split Amber Valley. And I'm pretty sure that Amber Valley didn't vote to split itself. And I don't see, and I made this point on the night, we would not have appreciated other councils splitting Derbyshire Dales. If they'd said, oh, we don't like Ashbourne being there, let's split Derbyshire Dales in the middle. We wouldn't have liked that. So why would we do that to another authority who we're about to sort of join forces with? So I think the problem we've got tonight is that it's 20 to 9 with, 3 hours and 20 minutes till the deadline, and you're asking us to go through 10 questions. And I don't agree with where we've put our number ones. So there is going to be a debate if we get into this. We do not have the time to do this. This is ridiculous. If you wanted us to do this, we should have had an extraordinary meeting last week so we could, just on this, so we could have had a quality debate, gone through it properly, and actually give ourselves some credibility. But tonight, we've lost our opportunity to do this properly. So I'm at a loss why this paper's been brought tonight, really, even though I think we should have done this back in January properly.
Thank you. Councillor Bond.
Yes, I have to agree, Chair. I'm slightly surprised at this, the nature of this appendix, and that this, again, I'm also surprised at this. I thought this was an alliance proposal, progressive alliance proposal, yet actually that doesn't seem to be the case within the room. If you're asking me tonight which of the proposals I prefer, that's a different question, but you're asking me to almost prefer what the table asks for. I would very much be in support of Councillor O'Brien's proposal that we remove the table and just submit the additional supplementary statement.
Thank you. It's been pointed out to me, I'm afraid, Councillor Butler, I don't think you were in the room at part of the debate here. So for that amendment that takes the table out of the proposal,
I'm very sorry that I was out of the room and I withdraw my...
It's okay. Yeah. But we just need, if we're going to consider taking that out of the proposal, Councillor Bond, you're seconding that? Okay, thank you. So we do have a proposer and a seconder. Okay, we've discussed this quite a lot now. I think we're in a position to move to that vote on the amendment to take the table out of the submission that goes forward as part of the recommendations. Can I see a vote in favour of removing the table as part of the proposal that goes forward, please? All those in favour of removing the table?
Can you clarify what you mean by removing the table?
Okay, so in Appendix 1, the table is everything from the key to the responses. That's right. The additional supplementary statement becomes the statement that goes forward. Okay? So this is all those in favour of just that statement going forward. Yes, sorry. Keep your hand down, please, Councillor Buttle. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Those against, in other words, in favour of keeping the entire Appendix 1 together? And abstentions? So what's the figures?
14 for, 10 against.
Okay, 14 for removing that, 10 against. So the substantive is now recommendations 1 and 2, but Appendix 1 is purely the additional supplementary statement. Okay? Can we see, councillors, can we see all those in favour of that substantive motion? You can, yeah.
Can we actually submit the statement without...
Good microphone, sorry.
Yeah. Can we actually submit the statement without filling in the rest of the questions?
Yes, you can.
Apparently, yes. We've had that clarified. Okay, we're all clear then, so we're going to vote on the substantive, which is everything you have here in front of you minus that table in Appendix 1. Okay? On 378, 379.
Yeah,
So,
but with that, with the additional supplementary statement, but no table.
That's right, yeah. So it's just a statement, it's not an additional supplementary statement.
So that's what we're voting for.
That's right?
Yeah.
Okay. All those.
Are you ready?
Okay. All those in favour, please show.
All the...
Got a figure there? Okay, right. Those against? Please show clearly. And abstentions? Looks like one. Okay, that is clearly carried as amended. Thank you, members. We move on to item 13, which is additional funding for Derbyshire Dales CVS. Thank you, Councillor Franks. I know you're absenting yourself on this one. Okay, Paul, back to you again.
Is this on the CVS one? Can I just ask a question? Because obviously I'm sort of part of the Grand Pavilion, and we are member organisations of the CVS. Does that count me out? Because my organisation is a member, not me individually.
I mean, you're fully aware, sorry, through you, Chair. I mean, members have to make this decision themselves about what interest to declare. I mean, you never get penalised for over-declaration. So if you're saying that you have some connection, but it's a non-pecuniary interest, that enables you to stay within the room and to join in the debate.
Yeah, that's great. Just thought I'd check.
Good. Back to you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This report is before members following a request received from the Derbyshire Dales CVS. As members may recall, you received a similar report back in January of 2025, whereby, in light of funding reductions imposed by Derbyshire County Council, that this council agreed to provide an additional funding support of £25,000 to the CVS, which at that time was for a single year, the 25-26 financial year, as a one-off payment. Part of the conditions of that additional financial support was that the CVS provide the District Council with a report on the activity that's been undertaken to benefit residents and communities of Derbyshire Dales, and that is attached to the main report as an appendix. The CVS continue to encounter significant financial challenges, as many community organisations do at the moment, and following the appointment of a new chief executive, I did receive this request, and hence the reason why I presented it to you this evening. Members only approved the council's budget 3 weeks ago, exactly 3 weeks ago tonight. You unanimously approved that budget. This didn't feature as part of that budget, so this will be in addition to the commitments that you made 3 weeks ago. So the point that members need to determine is A, whether you wish to provide additional financial support, B, whether that financial support is at the request of the CVS of £25,000, and if so, then it would have to be paid from the council's general reserve, because there is no approved budget to actually finance this from. May I draw members' attention to the financial comments within the report, which Karen has emphasised earlier this evening. The council does face financial challenges predicted in the budget you approved 3 weeks ago, and you need to bear those challenges in mind in considering this particular matter. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Ripton.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Paul, for bringing this forward. It's really important work. In addition to direct funding, have you had any conversations about other ways in which our organisation may support their organisation, whether that's through sharing services or even paying them to do work where we have an aligned interest?
Through you, Chair, yes, we have had those conversations. We continue to explore ways in which we can actually work together such that the council benefits by the CVS undertaking more work for us. They do undertake quite a lot at the moment, but also where we could actually financially support them, possibly at a financial return which is beneficial to them, but also beneficial to us. So those discussions are ongoing, yes.
Councillor Wayne.
If there are no more questions, I'd like to move the 3 recommendations as they sit, because I mean, it's a really important part of our organisation, an arm thereof, and I feel that with what we're confronted with internationally and nationally, to not do it would be a mistake. So I'm more than happy to move the 3 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Martin Burfoot. All right, okay. So we're into a debate on this. Does anybody wish to say anything? Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. I think we realise that CVS do a great deal of work. I've contacted them many, many times and they give me good advice. And, you know, we need to support this organisation. You know, the voluntary organisation, we need to support them. So I will be supporting the mover. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, I'll also be supporting this. I mean, if you look at the list of organisations that the CVS have supported, I've found them really hands-on, helpful for people, governance issues, anything, fundraising, grants, so much knowledge. You know, the previous chief exec, Neil, was absolutely amazing. I don't know, staff have moved on, but, you know, I think we should be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we've got a proposer. Have we got a seconder? Oh, Councillor Burfoot, sorry, yes. My apologies. If there's no other discussion, we move straight to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Those against? Abstentions? None. Okay, so that's clearly carried. Could somebody extract Councillor Franks, please, from wherever she is? We've got a few minutes before 9 o'clock. I'm hopeful we'll be able to get through item 14 very quickly. Could we move on to that, please, Nikki?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Evening, everyone. So this report's straightforward and a positive one. It doesn't set out any specific recommendations, but the information requires your formal acknowledgement. So the report relates to a recent audit conducted by Homes England on one of the district council properties, which was 6 Willow Way in Darley-Dale. The council received just over £67,000 of Homes England funding to purchase and renovate that property to a lettable standard. Combined with our own capital contribution, the funding enabled us to acquire and bring forward one of the first homes in our renewed role as a landlord. The property is a 2-bedroom mid-terrace home, now improved to an EPC-B, and has been successfully let to a family since 2022. Homes England, as the public body that are responsible for funding new affordable housing, carry out regular audits of schemes and properties where grant funding has been approved. The audits assess whether organisations have complied with Homes England policies, procedures and funding guidelines. They identify any breaches that can lead to recommendations, which can also influence future funding decisions by Homes England. Following an audit, Homes England issue a rating of green, amber or red. Green being none or only minor breaches, amber medium severity breaches, and then red is high severity breaches. So 6 Willow Way received a green rating, which is positive, no breaches identified, and as part of the audit requirements, it's necessary to present the report to members to formally acknowledge the findings so that that audit can be fully signed off. Including this property, the council has now undergone 2 Homes England audits since resuming its role as a landlord in 2021. Both those audits have achieved a green rating, demonstrating really our strong compliance with helping to ensure that we remain well positioned to secure future Homes England funding when that's required. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Any questions on this one? Councillor Nash.
I'd like to thank Nikki for the report and for the team in delivering the housing we've acquired as a council. I'd like to move straight to the vote if we can.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Dobbs.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I should just say, as a ward member for this, I'm very pleased to see this development in Darley-Dale, so thank you. So could we have all those in favour, please, Sharon? Looks like it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, members. That is passed. I'm aware that we have only 3 minutes until the deadline that we've set ourselves. I have the ability, of course, to extend the meeting, but I do feel in the interests of comfort, if members would like to just take a 5-minute break. Is there anybody who wants to do that, or do you want to go? Okay, no, I'm getting a sense that you want to carry on. Okay, that's absolutely fine. All right. So item 15 then. Can we have... that's you, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to go into the report in any detail. I feel it's self-explanatory. It is a result of a motion that was put to members some months ago for a request for an increase in the allocation for members for the local project fund. I've tried to put a reasonable amount in there of an increase and perhaps a change to the current structure for the allocation of funds each year. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Buckley.
Yeah, it's quite complex to work out how much you've allocated and how much you haven't allocated, and I think that that's one of the reasons why we get the underspend, why there's been an underspend, because is there a more straightforward way to find out exactly how much you have allocated and how much you haven't?
Yes, Chair, through you. It's a conversation with Emma Mortimer. She keeps a tab on which member has spent how much and on what.
Councillor Nash.
I know we're not in debate, but Emma writes to me on a regular basis at the back end of the year and tells me how much money I've got left to spend. And if I'm not spending it, she actually writes to my constituents and says, Andy's got money. So I don't think anyone's got any excuse for not spending.
Okay. With questions still. Councillor G.
Yeah, my question is, because this issue was derived around the motion that I did bring to council, and there was a substantial reason why I'd brought that, and it relates to the sort of twilight of the council. And on that evening, my motion of increasing it to £10,000, which was the figure I'd put on it, that was amended to an amount called a reasonable amount. Now, what I'd like to ask Ashley is, what was the process behind assuming that £200 addition was a reasonable amount? How did that come about?
In all honesty, Chair, it was looking at previous years and the fact that there's often an underspend, granted in varying amounts. Sometimes it's quite small, but as Councillor Nash has alluded to, officers have to encourage some members to spend that money. So given the financial position of the council and the things that you've heard from Karen this evening, we were trying to be quite prudent, and the third recommendation in changing the structure was there to try and support those members who are very active at spending that money and being able to access funds beyond the initial allocation. So I appreciate it's some way off the initial £10,000 that you asked for, but given our financial position, it seemed prudent.
Councillor Whitehead.
So could we amend it to be more then?
That's in members' gift. Councillor Whitehead.
Councillor Slack, did you have your hand up?
In our ward, we usually spend it pretty fast. It's usually gone. One year, we spent all the money and an application coming, and the council for Ullam Ward kindly sent some money to work for to help us out. So, is it possible, if same as Council Nash has too much money, he can send it to another ward?
There are circumstances where money can be pulled, and you can discuss that with Emma. Sometimes there are projects that require more than the initial allocation, but benefit both communities. So it's certainly a conversation to explore.
There you go. Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Chair. Personally, again, I would be happy to go with these recommendations, but also to note that maybe further debate is necessary and maybe further proposals going forward. But at Q3 of the year, I would be more comfortable with just moving this as it is now and maybe having a further conversation, which sounds like we want to reopen the debate that we had previously. Sorry, is this I'm asking a question, aren't I?
Question, I think.
Yes, would it be better, I don't know who I'm asking this of, maybe I'm asking this of Ashley, would it be better to open this debate up again for further consultation going forward rather than today? I don't know whether that's a question that you could answer.
I can try, Chair. There is reference in the report, as members will see when we've considered alternative options. There is a proposal that we review the scheme as a whole, and that is in line of in light of the current financial position. That could go either way, I suppose, but I think a review of the scheme as a whole would be a sensible step.
Could I just supplement that then? I know that might be in the body of the report. I wonder if it should be more explicit, really, and maybe that would satisfy everybody to say that we will review. Maybe that's a fourth recommendation, that we will review.
Okay, so that's a fourth recommendation. To review at what point?
Before the budget.
Well, certainly before the next budget, Chair.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Butcher.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Sorry, my head escaped me there. Councillor Whitehead, is this a question?
No, if we're moving into debate, I'd like to propose an amendment to item 2. I'd like to change it from £1,200 a year to £2,000 a year, which I believe will be an additional £27,200 on top of the 6,800. I just think that would be probably go some way towards, along with that kind of recommendation 3, which is about setting a future mechanism in terms of how we allocate budgets and underspend better. But I think just to have a better uplift for the year ahead might also go some way to sort of alleviate some of the slightly prudish sort of stuff that I'd said earlier about kind of protecting our money. So I think surely if we're going to put over £1 million away in a reserve, we could give up an additional 27,000 that we could then all invest back into our own communities. I'm sure both Matlock Bath and Cromford would really appreciate kind of a little bit of extra investment into some local projects.
Okay, so that's a proposal. We need a seconder for that. Councillor G, is that you?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to second that. In fact, I was hoping to do something similar to that. And I'd like to put some background on this because I do get quite a lot of requests on local project funds. And these days, most of them, you know, they're asking for about £1,000. And a lot of them are really good causes. I mean, I had one today, actually, which is from Lady Manners School to provide some transport for some kids who are eye level in literature. And they've got to some sort of final in London, and they're looking for about £600. Now, obviously, between Bob and I, that would wipe out, it would wipe out £300 of our fund as it is at the moment. So most of these requests that come to me, I'm conservative about allocating the money, and I make sure that I do it gradually throughout the year. And it is quite easy to lose £1,000, and you know that you haven't really given enough to some of them. I mean, I could give you a long list of the fund people who have asked. So I think this is an excellent proposal by Councillor Whitehead, and I can definitely support it. And I hope this council, it's, you know, in terms of that's getting towards a reasonable amount, you know, when I think about some of the additional money, because I was thinking about the amount we spend on consultants, £1,200 is 0.1% of that. So, you know, just to raise it to 2,000, that just gives us a little bit more leeway. And it's all these councillors, it's totally non-political because you're putting it back into your communities to good causes, and you can try and budget and spend that money over the year, and at the end of it, it's done. So yeah, I definitely support that, and I hope the whole council can vote for this so we can have it done, please.
Okay, so that would actually be taking out of general reserve a larger amount than is in recommendation 2. Okay, I'm just making that point. Anyone else wish to contribute to this? Councillor Ripton. We are in debate.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little concerned about some of the contributions tonight because you would think that the finances were never ever discussed outside of this meeting, and yet we have Governance and Resources Committee which receives detailed financial information. We have representatives from all of the political parties in that meeting. Karen's team provide excellent briefings in advance of that meeting or on an ad hoc basis about all matters financial, and yet sometimes we sound as if we've never seen the numbers or we are not in control of those numbers. If you want to make changes, we make changes through the governance mechanism. We talk to Karen about our proposals. We work out whether they're possible. We certainly don't make policy on the hoof and debate numbers at 9:05 in the evening. So I'm all in on thinking about ways we can use our reserves more effectively, but let's do it using the governance structures of the council, working with Karen's team, making sure that we understand the implications of what we want to do, and then bring this forward once we've understood that.
Yes, but Councillor Dobbs first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd just like to echo what Simon's just said. We need to be terribly careful that we don't want to set ourselves up as another Derbyshire Dales CVS. You know, they do a lot of this very effectively because they're used to it. Doing it on the hoof at whatever it is, 9:06, is not responsible. We've had a figure, we've seen it for some time, it's been discussed before. This is undoubtedly a reasonable increase. By all means, let's review it via GNR in the future. I don't think in terms of what has come to GNR about our projected financial position, this would send a consistent message to our residents about where we are financially. I commend the recommendations as written, plus the one to review in sometime in the future, before the next financial year, as Councillor Bond suggests.
I have that down now as a recommendation to review by Governance and Resources Committee before the next budget is set.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Whitehead.
So yes, just my right reply is, so it doesn't matter what the time is, we are councillors, so the time's regardless, so that's not a very good point. I would just say that did this report come to GNR, did it? Because I'm thinking that Ashley's brought this to full council for the first time that we have all seen it. So I think we have every right to debate it and amend it, and because it's been brought to us. So while I absolutely agree with you, Simon, in terms of due process, we should do things properly. But the thing is, this hasn't come through GNR. It's come directly to us. So the option is for us to do something with it now, regardless of the time. Therefore, I thought I'd make a sensible recommendation. Could have gone for the 10 grand that Gareth wanted. I thought this seemed like a good compromise. I still was very supportive of option 3 in terms of how we then build a better mechanism so we don't get ourselves into these tricks again. But I'm just a little bit disappointed to think that kind of you think we don't want to sort of debate this kind of properly, or that we've had plenty of time to do this before. I've never seen this report until kind of got the paper kind of earlier in the week, and I read through it. And so I'm just a little bit puzzled.
Okay. I think we're concluded in... Oh, Councillor Nash.
Sorry, Chair, just to complicate things even further.
Right.
I'm really supportive of this paper and the ideas put forward. I'm a little concerned with option 3, or recommendation 3, about moving the cut-off from the end of March until the end of December and then redistributing the funds. While I might be one of the councillors that benefit from that as I spend all my money, I actually budget my money through the year and I spend a big chunk of or some of it in the last quarter, and I don't want to be robbed of that opportunity. So I would like to have that removed from the process.
You can have a separate vote.
Yeah, have a look at
have a look at the paper, Nick.
Okay. All right. Councillor Boynton.
Nick, if we get too
quiet, please, members.
I do understand the need to be prudent with the finances, and we've put a large amount into reserves this evening. However, the increase from 1,200 to 2,000 takes very little out of the overall budget, and not every member here will spend that allocation, whichever allocation we decide. But from my point of view, it makes a massive difference to my community to be able to give that money out and help out with projects that they're doing.
Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Just very quickly, I totally agree with Councillor Boynton. I could spend more money if I had more money. And 1,200, it's very little going up to there. I think 2,000 is a reasonable amount. Thank you.
All right. I think we've now exhausted people who want to speak on this, but we have 2 amendments, and I think a suggestion that we vote separately on the recommendations as well, by the sound of it, certainly recommendation 3. So in order that those amendments were put forward, I think the first one was to insert a new recommendation 4 that we review before the next budget, or GNR reviews before the next budget is set, the progress of this process. Can we see all those in favour of that recommendation, please? 4, the new 4 as it is. I think that's unanimous. It is unanimous. Yeah, that's unanimous, so that is carried. Whether it remains recommendation 4, we will see in just a second. The second recommendation was to increase the amount specified here from 1,200 to £2,000. Could I see all those in favour of that amendment, please show? Okay, and all those against that increase, further increase? It's already being increased to 1,200. Okay, so members of abstentions, thank you, and abstention. Yeah. So that is clearly amended to read increase for each elected member from £1,000 to £2,000 per per year. Okay. And we've had a suggestion that we vote separately on recommendation 3 as it is written in front of you. So can I see all those in favour of recommendation 3 remaining as part of this? I can read it for you. Yeah. It says to amend the current process for application and spend, enabling elected members to access any unspent funds within the budget provision as detailed in section 2 of the report. Yeah.
Please, because I think I support Andy on this. I haven't got a problem with the current timetable. I think as long as we know what we've got and we see all the requests coming in, I don't think there's any need to complicate it by moving it forward. So I think I can support Andy's proposal on that one. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we all know what we're voting on. We've
Yes.
had enough discussion on this. We're voting. Okay, let's make this clear. Recommendation 3 as it is here. All those in favour of it being removed from what you're voting on tonight. Show, please. Yeah, go on. Okay, and those in favour of it staying in? 1. And abstentions? 2, I think. Sorry, I shouldn't be doing this, should I? No.
It was the second one. Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. So that is clearly removed. So we now have 3 recommendations. We have recommendation 1, as it's written in front of you. Recommendation 2, amended so that we each have £2,000. And a new recommend... Sorry, Karen. Yes, okay. So effectively we're voting to increase the supplementary revenue. We have, I know. It's just a point that's being made, so you're aware of this, when we vote on the whole thing. And we have a new, what is actually a recommendation 3 now, isn't it, for the review. Okay? So we know what we're voting on. All those in favour of the substantive motion? And all those against? And abstentions? That is clearly carried. Thank you very much, members. Have a safe journey home.
Just everybody else's fault.